Highlights from quarter-final one as we would get underway at the Nürburgring, and it was Dáire McCormack starting from pole position alongside Luke Bennett. That race down towards the first corner would see the Porsche Commander Esports man hanging on, but everyone fighting behind, including Marcel Cinčić, who had to start from the rear of the field. Nikola Wisniewski having a bit of a half-tap through T1 and slowing down into the mid-pack. Meanwhile, James Bolden was fending off Patrick Holtzman. Jamie Fluke was getting really involved in it. Fluke, though, would drop back just a touch, and Isaac Price would be the next one to get down the inside of him. And once Isaac Price had got through, Jamie Fluke dropped back not only from Price but from Yarshall as well. Jeff Giassi had to deal with the charge of Marcel Cinčić after the end of the first lap. Cinčić to the outside, a bit of a hip check between themselves, and then Cinčić was straight back down through, dealing it out as much as he was receiving it, and then Nikola Wisniewski was back into the mix as they leave the Mercedes arena section. There was side by side between the pair, and the number 33 was trying to make his way straight back through up into 7th position, which Wisniewski would take. Patrick Holtzman was then on the attack of Ryan Barneveld, looking down the inside into that first corner, giving a little bit of a rear-end nudge as the mouse car would just get into the rear end of the BMW M Team BS competition. Barneveld was able to hang on at least for the brief while. Holtzman was sending it to the outside of the Mercedes arena section going into that final bit. Meanwhile, Marcel Cinčić was getting past Nikola Wisniewski. Holtzman was unable to get through. Marcel Cinčić was then on the rear end of Patrick Holtzman, and when Holtzman made a mistake, of course, Cinčić pounced going through Dunlop up towards the Michael Schumacher S, and Marcel Cinčić was finally inside the top 6 with only a couple of laps left to go. He'd have to give his position back, though, to Patrick Holtzman, who'd come round the outside. Nikola Wisniewski also involved in the mix, and this cluster for the final transfer spot was about to be set ablaze. Wisniewski onto the rear end of the R8 G-Man. That race down towards the first corner is being covered off by Patrick Holtzman, but Marcel Cinčić was trying to open the door. Wisniewski was coming through 3 wide through the middle. The R8 G-Man gets pinched, and then 2 cars go off to the right-hand side. Cinčić would receive a post-race penalty for his inclusion in that incident, but a lot for race control to look at after the first quarter-final. Wisniewski was then into the fight with Isaac Price, which he would send himself down the inside for maybe a little bit too ambitiously, and Isaac Price would lose out. Wisniewski going for as many points as he could towards the final moments of the race. Holtzman also trying to drag his way through. However, at the front of the field, it was Dane Warren looking for a victory finally in ESL R1. The Porsche Commander Esports man would come through that final corner and would lead 1.7 seconds from Luke Bennett and Thomas Tattler, and what had been an enthralling quarter-final one. Dane Warren, Bennett, Tattler, Baldwin, Barneveld and Cinčić, the top 6 of the race ended, but expect that to change. And now looking for those final 6 spots in semi-final 1, it's quarter-final 2 with Josh Rogers starting this one from pole position alongside series debutant Sebastian Job. The race down to the first corner would almost see the G2 Esports man taking the race lead. He'd be sending it down the inside, and the 22 would just muscle his way past Josh Rogers, and it was G2 Esports at the front of the field. Meanwhile, there was clusters behind. Ibrahim Khan had issues out through the first corner. Johan Hart and Erhan Jajowski were battling it out. Meanwhile, Dáire McCormack and Enzo Benito were battling it out, but not where you'd expect them to be fighting, outside of the top 6. Getting himself involved in this fight as well was Victor Veloso, as Ibrahim Khan has returned to the championship, and Oscar Bixrud as well for the heroic team. Up towards the Michael Schumacher S, and there was side by side McCormack and Benito through the NGK chicane. The door was open though for Victor Veloso to come through 3 wide up towards that final corner. McCormack in a little bit too deep, opening up the opportunity for Ibrahim Khan to sneak his way past Enzo Benito on that race down to the first corner as McCormack was making a move on Veloso. Khan was trying his one on Benito. McCormack's would be successful, Khan's would not. Up towards the second corner on the circuit through the Mercedes arena section, the BMW M Team BS competition car was not able to make his way through. Final lap of the race, Sebastian Job left the door open to Joshua Rogers. These two have fought time and time again in other championships, and they fight here today. Josh Rogers playing it perfectly up towards the final corner. Erhan Jajowski would almost try and get himself involved in the mix, but after a fantastic, enthralling fight, Josh Rogers would come out on top in quarter-final 2, ahead of Sebastian Job, ahead of Erhan Jajowski, Johan Hartmannerhaus and Maximilian Benecke. The provisional results from quarter-final 2, and the 6 will move on to the semi-finals. And on then to highlights from quarter-final 3. Timmy Uskard starting this one from pole position alongside Jeffrey Rietveld, as once again the race down to that first corner would be underway. Ulas Zildirim starting a little bit further off the rear end of the field as he would let everyone battle their way down to the first corner, potentially expecting drama. There was almost some, as there was a bit of a slide from Joni Turmula coming through as he tapped the rear end of Jakub Brzezinski. Speaking of tapping the rear end of Jakub Brzezinski, there's Kaki Oliveira just giving a couple of nudges through that first corner at the start of the second lap. Then there was an enormous send in the background from Niels Nyox down the inside of Mitchell de Jong. He would rejoin the race circuit into the side of Kevin Ellis Jr., who would spin off and go to the rear of the field. Nothing really Ellis Jr. could do there, as the Apex Racing Team driver would drop to the back. Niels Nyox would eventually join him back there as Joni Turmula was trying to get his way past Oliveira. This is the battle, though, for 7th position. Not inside that top 6, not inside those positions that will transfer through into the semi-finals. But Joni Turmula was trying to do something about it, was trying to move his way through. Penultimate lap of the race, though, and it was Yuri Toman that was trying to make his way past Jeffrey Rietveld up through turn 1, and Toman bouncing back after what had been a difficult previous round, getting knocked out in the quarterfinals. This time, that is not looking like it is the case. The R8G man around the outside of Jeffrey Rietveld was not able to make his way through on this occasion, but was definitely fighting to move his way up into the runner-up position in the race. Mitchell de Jong, though, looking just for some all-important points as they're all trying to race their way through into the Rennsport Summit at the Spring Major. Mitchell de Jong trying to get that extra point off of Oliveira, sending it through, fighting really hard on the final lap of the race, through turn 1, through turn 2, through 3 and 4 they would go, and Mitch de Jong with the inside line, it would give him the outside line through this turn 4, through that kick and out onto the that stretch just leaving the Mercedes Arena section. It was de Jong that was coming out on top in that occasion. Tommy Uskard, though, well, he looked strong a week ago, and he looks strong here as well. Tommy Uskard out of the final corner, take another win in ESL R1 as the heroic team look to move from strength to strength. Rietveld and Toman separated by just over a tenth across the line. Yuri Kaustorp, Marko Pejic and Jakub Brzezinski, these 6 drivers, provisionally onto semi-final 2. And then on to quarter-final 4 as we look for the final 6 drivers to move through into the semi-finals. Moritz Lerner would be starting this one from pole position. However, his start would be poor. Eamon Murphy would come through to take the race lead down to the first corner for G2 Esports. Mac Backham was almost having a look down to the first corner, but was more in defence of those behind. Mikael Gala, he was fighting as they entered the first corner. Up through the chicane on the first lap, and it was getting very messy indeed between this group. Rainer Talvar and Peter Berryman all over the place going through NGK, and then Ian Porter battling it out with Graham Carroll for 11th and 12th position. Carroll would come through, going through the final corner, and the 2 would battle it out. Moritz Lerner was looking to come straight back through for the race leaders. Eamon Murphy was just about able to hang on. Garlow would see his opportunity to try and come through into second. It wasn't quite here, it wasn't quite this time. Would he get many more through the race, though? Garl having to settle for 3rd. Moritz Lerner was still feisty. He was fighting. He was desperate for a race win to represent Mouse here. Eamon Murphy was just able to hang on, and really with the preferred line through 2 and 3, Eamon Murphy should hold on in that number 66. Moritz Lerner not quite able to fight, but he was still working over the rear end of that BMW, of that G2 Esports car, looking for any opportunity. He'd almost have one, but it was more looking backwards, because Garl would make his way through up into 2nd position. Mikael Garl up into that 2nd spot. Moritz Lerner down to 3rd, and Mac Backham was the next one to try and fight his way through. Jack Keithley, another one of our debutants for the Williams Esports team, was having a bit of a slide going through NGK. Unfortunately, it looks like 7th was only as good as it would be for him. Eamon Murphy, though, after Sebastian Job's fantastic quarter-final 2, G2 Esports were back up onto the podium, but this time it was on top. Eamon Murphy in 1st, Mikael Gala, Moritz Lerner, Mac Backham, Kevin Siggy and Lasse Sorensen, the top 6 provisionally in quarter-final 4.
So a pretty good day for us here at ESL round 6. Managed to get a pretty good lap in qualifying, and race went pretty much flawlessly, really. I'm really happy with how we went compared to last round, especially. Being able to convert in the race means quite a bit. But yeah, it's not over yet. We got the semis and the finals hopefully on Monday. So yeah, we'll see how we go further.
I just made it to the semi-final for ESL R1. It's the 2nd semi-final I make this season. It was pretty tight, but overall happy that I made it. And I'm looking forward to racing on Monday. I want to find a bit more pace in qualifying, and then I think we should be good to go and hopefully make it to the final.
So I didn't quite nail my qualifying lap today, so that put me P3 on the grid. I was just happy to stay there. Unfortunately, there was a lot of fighting in front of me, which I didn't quite approve of. I mean, it's good for the show, but in the end, it doesn't really matter where you finish. So I was happy to just stay in position, and I was kind of hoping nothing crazy happened in front. So in the end, I'll take P4 and eyes forward to Monday.
Yeah, I made it through to the semifinals on Monday. Finished P2 in the quarterfinals, in the quarterfinal 4, after starting from pole position. But the Audi was rather slow, or is rather slow at the start compared to the BMW. So the BMW got the jump off of me. And yeah, like that I was P2, trying my best to get up to P1 again, but yeah, I didn't risk too much because in the end it's not about winning, it's about being in the top 6. Winning, of course, is always nice, but that's not the goal in this race, in the quarterfinals. So yeah, made my way through. I think I was still a little bit lacking in qualifying. I have to find a little bit of pace there for Monday. But I'm feeling quite good and confident that Monday I can progress into the finals.
Oh man, we are through to the semis. The only driver from the team, so really rough day in the office for us, but it is what it is. You have your ups and downs. Hopefully I can score really good points on Monday. Nürburgring is not my favorite track, but I think I can make it into the final, and then if you're in the big show, then anything can happen. Hopefully we can maintain our 3rd place in the standings. Fingers crossed. Cheers.
Overall, my Friday for round 6 went really, really well. I was happy to get in an awesome lap in qualifying. I spent a lot of my practice kind of just trying to be consistent to improve that on other rounds, and I think we did that. And yeah, didn't quite get off the line, but had a mega battle with Sebi throughout the entire race. Managed to get by just by a tiny little bit in the last chicane in the last corner, but yeah, it was awesome fun. I'm ecstatic to obviously get through to Monday, and yeah, obviously we'll see how it goes. It's not over, but we'll keep the consistency going.
So just finished the quarterfinal, got, what did I get, 5th or 4th? I finished 4th, qualified 6th. Happy to be through, happy to be doing the semi-final and the final on Monday. Still got a bit of a cold, that's why my voice sounds a bit nasally. But yeah, not actually that happy with the performance. Quali was rubbish. I don't know why, but it was rubbish. I need to investigate why. And the race was okay, made an overtake, which doesn't usually happen in this series. So yeah, on to Monday, do some hard work over the weekend, and yeah, hopefully we can get into that final. I think a top result in the final is possible, just need to try and deliver. We'll see. So yeah, can't wait.
What is up, everybody? Welcome back once again to ESL R1 round number 6, where we are diving on back into Nürburgring. My name is Jasmine, a familiar face by now, I'm sure, but another familiar face that will be joining me on the broadcast here today is none other than George Morgan. How's it going, homie? I'm liking the hat.
Oh, thank you very much, Jasmine. I'm living the dream. It's round 6. We're only a matter of rounds away before Munich, and it's heating up in here.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we had plenty taking place and unfolding, happening before our very eyes between our quarterfinals that took place over on Friday and our semi-finals and our finals that will be taking place today, namely in the form of Marcel Chinchik not making it through to the semi-finals after his 3 finals placements, George.
Yeah, and that's not the only story. Eamon Murphy getting his first win of the season as well. A blossoming G2 Esports by the looks of things.
And of course, don't forget about good old Heroic. Up until the previous round, they hadn't had a single driver through to the finals, but now they have 3 in the semi-finals.
Yeah, and if things didn't get much better for G2, they once again scored with Sebastian Job on his first time of asking a semi-final visit. Can he make it a final as well?
And on the topic of individual drivers, we also have Dane Warren stepping it up a notch or two, but whether or not it's too little too late, only time will be able to tell. So for the folks joining us today, you've heard me say it time and time again, we've got competitions, we've got fun activities over on our social media pages as well. So another reminder to drop a follow at ESL_R1. The competition that we have taking place this time around, though, is a chance for you to win your own ESL R1 t-shirt. We're all about the banter, we're all about the memes over here on broadcast. So the question I'm proposing to all of you is to drop your best caption for that image that you saw just a moment ago, and we're going to have Crimsix decide the winner of that one. I think my caption would probably be my face when I see George Morgan's predictions time and time again over here on ESL R1.
That burns, Jasmine, that burns.
Don't worry about it, George. It's not going to last all day, but we also have Match the Outcome taking place on our social media as well. A fun little activity for you to give us your predictions. Give me one of the predictions that you had made, George.
I think I threw in Tom Usgard to give us a wave on the driver cam, so I'm going to go with that one, I think. That's a definite for me.
Okay, I'm liking it, I'm liking it. Another reminder as well, reply with your own predictions and your own match outcomes as well. And make sure you're using the hashtag for ESL_R1 is the Twitter page, and the hashtag ESLR1 for the hashtag to use all throughout the event as well. But I think it's about time we focus on how things have unfolded so far to get us to this very position, George.
Yeah, what a story it has been. Obviously, we've got the return of Maximilian Beneke, Joshua Rogers and Luke Bennett, of course, all of them finalist winners, and they're all here in round 6 as well. Luke Bennett looking to follow up his first Nürburgring win with yet another as we go racing there for the second time. But no Dáire McCormack, twice on the spin, claiming a final victory. He's not going to make it a third in a row.
One thing is for sure, we certainly bring the shock factor here at ESL R1 as well. And not to forget, round 8 is when our team championship ends as well, George.
It is, and RHG currently steamrolling that affair. 502 points to their name up to now, with Team Redline as well in behind. The big mix-up, though, Chinchik obviously not here for RHG. Team Redline also missing Enzo Benito, but with Williams missing out Dáire McCormack, a huge chance for Porsche Coanda tonight.
Now, despite RHG's dominant performance, Team Redline has the lead in the number of team semi-final appearances as well. Do you think they'll be able to play catch-up with RHG?
I think so. I think given the fact that we're seeing now that only Benito is out for Redline, they've got 3 other very feisty competitors. Obviously, RHG also having the return of Yuri Toman. That's going to be spicy. But also, don't count out Porsche Coanda. They've got some very decent drivers in the mix as well.
Now, how about the driver championship standings as well? Things are looking kind of spicy on this front.
Yeah, very fascinating. Marcel Chinchik currently in second. He will not be here today, though. Obviously, he was actually outed in the quarterfinals. Joshua Rogers level on points with him, has a chance now, or he will go up into second place. No Dáire McCormack either, so a chance for Luke Bennett to catch up. But the key point is that top 24. Ulas Zildrim currently holds the 24th spot, level, or just under, should I say, Johan Harth on points. Sebastian Job, if he needs to get going, he needs to get going now to get through to Munich.
Now, I'm curious to hear a little bit more about Sebastian Job in particular, but I'm going to quiz you on that just a little bit later on as well. But first things first, let's get a little bit of a TLDR for our quarterfinals 1 and 2.
Highlights from quarter-final 1 as we get underway at the Nürburgring, and it was Dane Warren starting from pole position. Everyone fighting behind, including Marcel Chinchik, who had to start from the rear of the field. Nikodem Wisniewski having a bit of a half-tap through T1. Jeff Giassi had to deal with the charge of Marcel Chinchik after the end of the first lap. Chinchik to the outside, a bit of a hip check between themselves, and then Chinchik was straight back down through, dealing it out as much as he was receiving it, and then Nikodem Wisniewski was back into the mix as they leave the Mercedes Arena section. It was side by side between the pair, and the number 33 was trying to make his way straight back through up into 7th position. Wisniewski onto the rear end of the RHG man. That race down towards the first corner is being covered off by Patrick Holtzman, but Marcel Chinchik was trying to open the door. Wisniewski was coming through 3 wide through the middle. The RHG man gets pinched, and then 2 cars go off to the right-hand side. Chinchik would receive a post-race penalty for his inclusion in that incident, but a lot for race control to look at after the first quarter-final. Dane Warren, Bennett, Tattler, Baldwin, Barneveld and Chinchik, the top 6 of the race ended, but expect that to change. And now looking for those final 6 spots in semi-final 1. It's quarter-final 2 with Josh Rogers starting this one from pole position alongside series debutant Sebastian Job. The race down to the first corner would almost see the G2 Esports man taking the race lead. He'd be sending it down the inside, and a 22 would just muscle his way past Josh Rogers. Meanwhile, Dáire McCormack and Enzo Benito are battling out, but not where you'd expect them to be fighting, outside of the top 6. Up towards the Michael Schumacher S, and there was side-by-side McCormack and Benito through the NGK chicane. The door was open though for Victor Veloso to come through, 3 wide up towards that final corner. McCormack in a little bit too deep. Open final lap of the race. Sebastian Job left the door open to Joshua Rogers. These two have fought time and time again in other championships. Josh Rogers playing it perfectly up towards the final corner. Erhan Yovski would almost try and get himself involved in the mix, but after a fantastic, enthralling fight, Josh Rogers would come out on top in quarter-final 2 ahead of Sebastian Job, ahead of Erhan Yovski, Johan Harthbunnerhaus and Maximilian Benecke. The provisional results from quarter-final 2, and the 6 will move on to the semi-finals.
Well, that recap gives us a little bit of a beautiful platform to lead into the final list of drivers we have competing here for semi-final number 1. So, George, take me through some of these amazing drivers that we have.
Yeah, we have certainly some very spicy drivers. Obviously, Joshua Rogers and Sebastian Job. What a finale to that quarter-final 2. But you've got to don't count out the fact that Luke Bennett's going to be in the mix. Max Benecke comes back as well. Erhan Yovski in the mix. Big miss for RAG. Obviously, not having Marcel Chinchik. That is certainly going to be a sore point for them. But I just can't get over the Rogers-Job affair. That was such a sensational fight towards the end of QF2.
Now, I'm curious to hear a little bit more about Rogers and Job in particular as well. Obviously, for Job, this is not going to be an easy affair. You're diving into a whole new sim racing tournament, as it were, and you're representing a huge organisation at that as well. So what can you tell me about them?
Well, certainly the two of them are very, very talented. They have such a rivalry. If you look at the numbers as well, they are absolutely out of this world. Obviously, 2 Pesquil titles go into that of Joshua Rogers. Sebastian Job picking up 1 solitary title, but certainly no less potent. We saw them literally neck and neck towards the line in their quarterfinal event. In terms of their round 6 finish, you could see first going to Rogers, second going to Job, but don't discount that fastest lap time either. Joshua Rogers certainly will be up there in terms of quali pace. Sebastian Job, though, does have it in the race. So never count either of them out. Different drivers, but still very, very fast.
So what you're telling me is not only have they gone head-to-head on our graphic, but they're also going to be butting heads on the track as well. I'm super excited to see how Sebastian Job is going to perform. But now the power is in your hands for all of the folks at home as well. Go ahead and send us your predictions. We have indeed posted a link for you all to send in your prediction our way with this fabulous straw poll. And I'm curious to see who the fan favourites are going to end up being. But I think without further ado, it's about time we introduce and welcome Lewis to join us on the broadcast too, so I can quiz him on his prediction.
Well, hello. Yeah, no, great to be here. My prediction straight away, by the way, just so I can steal it from George before he says anything. Seb Job, I think he's going to come out on top in semi-final 1.
Ooh, he's done it.
Straight away. Bang.
Well, I want this rivalry to continue, Jasmine, so I'm going to put my hands up and say Josh Rogers is going to take this one.
Okay, I'm curious to hear from the folks at home, though. We need a little bit of a tiebreaker. I don't want to be the tiebreaker because I don't want to be wrong. So I'm going to rely on the folks at home as well. Send us in your predictions with the straw poll in the chat and also on social media as well. For now, though, I'm going to leave you in the very capable hands of George and Lewis. Catch you guys soon.
Yeah, bye, Jasmine. It's us in the booth, as it always has been. We're disagreeing as to who's going to come out on top here, but to be fair, I mean, I can see it being either one of those two. We are missing out quite a few of those other drivers, George. Dane Warren being one. Erhan Yovski was also looking really strong. He was still within a second of the race winning his quarterfinal, so who knows?
In terms of semi-finals, it doesn't get much bigger than this, does it? If you look at the grid order that we've got, the likes of Max Benecke are obviously in the mix as well, Luke Bennett. There's so many names there that you can pull out that could potentially take the big W. I mean, we keep forgetting Luke Bennett. Of course, he's won here already. He's the form driver, essentially, in this affair, obviously coming off the back of that final win in round 3. So you'd be silly to count him out. But, I mean, looking back at that QF2 race, what a finish, and certainly watching them come across the line together. Job just narrowly missing out.
Yeah, and we say this is one of the heavyweights in the semi-finals. Obviously, both of them are very, very, very strong, as we've come to expect from ESL R1. We'll move into the qualifying sessions. I was going to talk about this driver here, James Baldwin. In the build-up to this show, we were talking, had like a couple of interviews with him between quarterfinals and today, and he was saying that the one thing he needed to work on most was qualifying, and I wonder if he might have found something in qualifying. We know track position is really, really important. Let's see a lap on board with the Mercedes-AMG team At Esports man through turn 1 and then up towards turn 2 into the Mercedes Arena section. And George, this is where that really good overtaking opportunity is, diving it down the inside of this bit, right?
It is, and if you can get, essentially it's like a slingshot almost. You come through this next left straight into the right, almost out of the Mercedes Arena curve. You're literally like a shot now heading down this next straight, which will lead you through towards turn 5. Now this is the beginning of sector 2. Things can get a little bit harem-scarum down here because you've got the very treacherous Dunlop curve, and if you leave it a bit long in the tooth, you can find yourself in the gravel trap on the left-hand side, which James Baldwin does extremely well to avoid. Obviously more to come as well as he heads out of turn 6 and towards turn 7. This again, very treacherous, deep dive now through this next right, and this will tee you up then for the Michael Schumacher S's at turns 8 and 9, so needs to really have his wits about him here. You can ride the curbs, but naturally you do not want to be sent into a spin. Very treacherous circuit here at the Nürburgring.
Yeah, it was didn't quite use as much of the exit as what I would have thought there, if I'm perfectly honest. But I mean, far be it from me to judge James Baldwin on how to drive a race circuit at high speed. He is pretty good, as the cool kids say. I think Baldwin set something like a 53.2 in the quarterfinals back on Friday. That was with a 36.3 in the first sector and a 47.2 in the second. So he's looking to beat that time, looking for somewhere in the lower 53. So if he can nail the final sector with somewhere in a 29 mid, maybe slightly faster than that, this could be a really good lap time for the Mercedes, which has seemed to once again struggle a little bit around the Nürburgring circuit. It's not really one that's been built for it. Let's see what Baldwin does across the line. He does a 52.989. That is a very tasty lap time.
You're not setting the bar low enough, Lewis McGlade. As we're now seeing Max Benneker now making his way through the final corner. Coca-Cola curve, big exit now for our race 1, or certainly our round 1 finalist winner. Benneker now up towards the line. Oh, it's a 53.1. Not close enough to James Baldwin. Nearly 2/10 out, Lewis McGlade.
Yeah, that is absolutely mega. I'm trying to work out what the fastest lap time was, because I don't think we've not seen many 52s. We've seen any. Dane Warren crosses the line to set a 53.1, so that's a pretty handy lap time from him. But what a mega one from Baldwin. Let's see if Rogers can do it. I mean, this is looking pretty fast. First sector, second sector's incredible.
Oh, isn't it just? 52.965, Lewis. Absolutely exceptional. 23 thousandths faster than James Baldwin as well. Luke Bennett, who of course won here last time when we visited in round 3, and he goes faster at 52.929. One after another, 36 thousandths quicker than Joshua Rogers.
Yeah, I'm just checking it out. It was a 52.933, which is the fastest lap time that Josh Rogers set when it came to the quarterfinal day. Sebastian Job crosses the line, only 5th being good enough. You can kind of see he's not really too impressed with that time, but it's Bonnerhouse to the final corner.
Yeah, Bono House coming back. Do not discount, though, Sebastian Job. He'll be back later. Bono House now up towards the line himself as well. Not an ideal lap at all. Nearly 3.5 tenths slower than that of Luke Bennett. He would have wanted better than that.
See what he does. Johan Haaf, 36.2 in the first sector. He'll punch his way up towards the line, looking for a low 53. It's a 53.2. It's the slowest time of the session, just 3/10 off. Here's Haniowski, though. He was really impressive on Friday night.
Yeah, starting to come back to his best form now. Yuyovski obviously trying to do the business with the absence of Marcel Chinchik. It's Yuyovski for R8G. He goes 6th fastest, ahead of Max Benneker, and within 2/10, but I still don't think he's happy with it.
No, I don't think so. You'd be frustrated if you were down the orders, put him in the danger zone. Ryan Barneveld, the next one across the line. Just 3 more drivers in the session. Can Barneveld do anything? It's to 8th position for him. Thomas Tattler will be next.
Yeah, Thomas Tattler on the surge of the heroic team. They have been very vibrant here, certainly here at the Nürburgring. Obviously, Tommy Usgaard has delivered them many a great result. Could Thomas Tattler add himself to the mix? Oh, he can. 4th fastest there for Thomas Tattler. He's in the mix. 1.5 tenths outside that of Luke Bennett.
Yeah, you were quite right in calling it a surge from the heroic team. They've been looking very impressive. Jamie Fluke to the line, and he'll be back there with his Apex Racing team teammate on the rear of the field. Luke Bennett, we did say maybe we were counting him out a little bit. I mean, Luke Bennett's an impressive driver and once again delivers. He likes the Nürburgring, clearly.
He does, and we effectively discounted him. We all thought that, obviously, we went down the route of Rogers and Sebastian Job, but let's not forget, this man won the final in round 3. He's done it. He's been there, got the T-shirt at the Nürburgring. So if there's one man who's going to succeed, I'm sure it's going to be him.
Not only did he win the final when it came to round 3 of the championship, that first online round, he won the quarterfinal, he won the semi-final, and he won the final. He won all 3 of his races, of course. In the quarterfinals, he finished in 2nd position behind Dane Warren. But starting again, you know, obviously looking here on the Monday, starting from pole position, it is a hard track to overtake at. But the thing is that race start, isn't it? The inside line down towards turn 1. We saw it actually in the quarterfinal highlights there. Sebastian Job got the jump on Josh Rogers in quarterfinal 2. Do you think the same could potentially happen here?
Absolutely. I think that first sector is so important. If you can get the inside line, it's obviously very helpful. But do you want to take us through the grid here, Lewis?
Yeah, certainly we will do so. The grid in semi-final 1, powered by our partners in VRS. From back to front, Johan Harth will start from the final position in 12th, alongside his teammate Jamie Fluke. Bunner House will start from the 1st position inside the top 10, with Ryan Barneveld, Maximilian Benneker and Erhan Yovski, the current 6 drivers, not inside that top 6 and moving through into the final. Sebastian Job, on his debut, finds himself in 6th position, with Dane Warren in 5th. Then we get Thomas Tattler, we get James Baldwin, Josh Rogers, and of course, it's Luke Bennett. He'll be starting this one from pole position at a track where he has won in ESL R1 before. Our round 3 winner. I mean, he again, clearly clicks with the 5.1 kilometre circuit. Just loves it.
He does. Absolutely superb as well. And we're going to take a look at your views as well, folks, at home as well. In the straw poll, James Baldwin getting a huge lump of votes there. The man who obviously set the initial Fast 52 on top in terms of the polling scores at the moment. Sebastian Job in behind as well. Max Benneker in the mix too. But I tell you what, 10 votes against 5, 5, 2 and 1. And no one picking Luke Bennett out at all here, Lewis.
No, absolutely not. Again, a reminder, the straw poll, you can vote in it, especially when it comes to semi-final 2 into the final as well. We want to hear your opinions as to who's going to win. And also, you can just drop it in chat or throw it on Twitter. One, if you want to make a fancy graphic, hashtag ESL R1, at ESL_R1, or you can just spam George Morgan TV, is it? Anyway,
thank you.
Moving on. Do you think Luke Bennett's definitely going to win this race, or do you think, yeah, obviously I'm not asking you for a change of opinion. Still, you're probably still going to lean towards Rogers, aren't you? Yeah.
Well, I mean, look, you'd be silly to count out Josh Rogers. I mean, obviously, he is also a finalist winner. Okay, that being at Hockenheimring, but nevertheless, you've got to be quick enough to take the advantage here in these situations. I still think, though, that Luke Bennett is going to be a tough nut to crack. I think we all know his form, we know his history, and we know his history here at the Nürburgring as well. He certainly favours it here on the Rennsport platform, and if he can take the early advantage, find his way through out to the Mercedes arena for the first time of asking, build a gap, build an advantage. Not saying he necessarily will do, but hey, if he gets himself up to the top end and you're in the top 6, then you're a surefire favourite to make it through to the final. That goes without saying.
Yeah, this track is really about nailing that start. It is a tricky track to overtake at. It is possible. Definitely saw that in the quarterfinals. We'll have to wait and see here. They'll begin their run down to that first corner here at the Nürburgring as round 6 of ESL R1 is about to get underway. And we are moving. What has happened on this race start? Both Porsche Commanders not getting going. Josh Rogers dropping back into the middle of the pack and Dane Warren all the way off the rear end. You've got James Baldwin attacking down to the first corner, but Luke Bennett is able to easily hang on to the race lead after... What drama was that, George?
I'm speechless, Lewis. I mean, obviously not purposely. Obviously, I'm talking right now. But how can you? I mean, I just can't. How do you describe a moment like that? Just Dane Warren losing it altogether at that point. Joshua Rogers as well. I might as well throw my prediction right out the window here at this point as well. He's outside the top 6, but nevertheless, Bono House taking full advantage now in P7 with Ryan Barneveld all over his rear. But Luke Bennett, no qualms about his start. James Baldwin just in behind him. And look at Thomas Tackler, heroic, still powering their way through. 3rd place here with Seb Job just behind him.
Yeah, I'm not 100% sure what happened. It's odd that it was both Porsche Commander Esports cars that were the ones that dropped back. Either they were trying a new start technique or something in that vein, or potentially even there was something on their side that they weren't seeing, because everyone else reacted fine. As far as I saw, as far as that brief moment that I saw, it seemed like everyone else reacted. It was just both of the Porsche Commander Esports cars basically didn't move on the start. That is very bizarre. We have not seen that in ESL R1 before. It almost looked as if they'd like bogged down or stalled, potentially more on the bogged down side of things. Maybe they were doing something with the clutch.
Well, it does make you wonder. It's intriguing, really. As you say, happening to both drivers of the same team. Intriguing moment, and nevertheless, they've got a huge upward climb now on their hands. Obviously, Joshua Rogers, you know, he is obviously a huge talent.
Oh,
Into the pit lane, though. Wow.
Jump start.
Okay, so drive through.
Must have been.
Incredible.
Must have been a jump start. Because it's kind of like, so you might think, well, he had a jump start, but he didn't move anywhere, but he might have like jumped the initial bit, stopped, and then went, oh damn. Either way, it's happened now, and Rogers does not seem to be going through to a final. Bonnerhouse is trying to make sure that he can do so. Max Benecker straight down the inside of Erhan Yovski, who had a third place finish on Friday night. And Bonnerhouse is going to be staring at all of this through the Mercedes arena section, thinking, hey, I'm in a Mercedes. This is surely my place to attack.
And battles further up, open doors, that's for sure. And certainly Bono House will have that firmly on his mind. Joshua Rogers, got confirmation from race control. Drive through due to false start. So there you go, folks at home. That is the reason why he's come in. Not an ideal start whatsoever for Porsche Commander. Both of them now routed to the tail end of the field. Dane Warren in 11th, Josh Rogers in 12th. Bono House, though, searching for a top 6 visit after having such a difficult start to his season. He's slowly working towards bouncing back. Can he find the same grind that James Baldwin has secured? Because he's only 4/10 away off the lead.
Yeah, well, it's whether Baldwin's going to attack for anything or maybe just try and test out his race pace right now and see what he's got in the tank, whether he can keep up with Luke Bennett, because that'll really assist his efforts coming through into the final. And hey, potentially a race win also would. Of course, Bennett's had a few race wins in ESL R1. James Baldwin yet to pick up his first on a round where it seemed, though, as if Mercedes was struggling. We spoke about this back in Spa when we were talking to James Baldwin, actually, last round. He was saying at Spa, the Mercedes wasn't the favourite car, yet Dáire McCormack still found something special with it and took victory in that round. Could this be the round where James Baldwin's potentially doing something of a similar effect? Because, well, let's be honest, he's pretty quick. And he was your pick as well at home.
Yeah, absolutely. He is certainly the pick of many people, and you'd be silly not to. And I tell you what, Bono House now might have found something heading through the final corner at Coca-Cola as they now make their way down the straight. You can just see them, they're just tailing after Erhan Yovski, who has in fact lost a little bit of ground to Max Benecker ahead. Now that gap has stretched to half a second, but just see the straight line speed difference there. He's managed to actually coop a lot of pace, but late in the brakes perhaps a little look down the inside from Bono House, but not choosing to pull the plug yet on a move here on Erhan Yovski, as we're now seeing Ryan Barneveld also getting closer in behind. Jamie Fluke also threatening that of the BS competition BMW as now they peel through towards this next right-hander. You just see him now just nose to tail, the two Apex cars literally touching nose to tail as they now peel through, down through now towards sector 2. They got turn 5 and turn 6 still yet ahead of them, with Dane Warren still right in behind. Joshua Rogers now all the way down in P12, 20 seconds off the pace. It's just bad to worse for Porsche Commander right now.
Yeah, I think Rogers will basically be settled on picking up just the 7 points. Is all he's going to get from this, i.e. finishing in 12th. That's what you get for it. You finish 12th in the semi-final, and it is just 7 points to your name. Again, it's very bizarre as to what happened there. Getting confirmation as well. Obviously, Rogers received a drive-through penalty for a false start. Dane Warren did not. Whatever they were trying on the start, I feel it's a little too coincidental that it was both the Porsche Commander Esports cars. Whatever they were trying on the start, I get the feeling might have been very similar, and it's just it went really, really, really bad for Rogers, and just quite devastatingly bad, only a little bit, but pretty bad for Warren. If you get what I mean, I get the feeling they were trying something on that start. They might not have been. It might have just been a normal start, and it might have just been a coincidence. But that's just what my commentary brain is telling me.
Yeah, well, I think you could be absolutely right. I mean, regardless of either way it goes, both Porsches in trouble here at this point, and what looked to be such a positive turn of foot for them heading through to this round. Obviously, they have seen success. They had success, obviously, in round 5 at Hockenheimring, but prior to that, they had a couple of quarter-final exits, which certainly didn't help at Spa in round 4, but jumping back up again into semi-final action, and again, they got 2 cars that don't seem to be finding their way into the finals. That puts more impetus now on the big Mac Backham later on when we go racing. Max Benneker now coming through this next left at Mercedes Arena. Mouse currently sat in that 5th place, obviously looking to jettison its way forward. Obviously they had a car go out already. Of course, we saw obviously the fights happening through the group. Yuri Kasdorp as well, who has obviously been one of their figure points over the last couple of rounds at Hockenheim and Spa, as well as we're now seeing Benneker move his way through to the next left, still chasing Sebastian Job. He might choose though just to hold position, effectively own his place right now, just so he can tee something up for the final later on. Of course, Yuyovski is the man that's effectively in trouble because Bono House is right on his tail. Jamie Fluke now 1 second off the pace of Bono House, which goes to show that Ryan Barneveld is riding his rear wing, looking to try and reclaim the 8th place that he lost.
Yeah, I don't know if Beneke is going to actually feel comfortable right now. Yes, I know he's in that 5th position. Sebastian Job is ahead. By the way, as much as we've spoken about how much Rogers and Sebastian Job have fought, trust me, Maximilian Beneke and Sebastian Job have fought their fair amount over the last few years. Whether it's in PESC, obviously for anyone who doesn't know, that's the Porsche Esports Super Cup, one of the highest levels of racing that you can do in sim racing. Of course, it's one of the iRacing World Championships, and so having Sebastian Job as a champion of that, Maximilian Beneke wants to really challenge for it. These two have raced quite a bit, so it is a bit of a feisty fight. They do know how they're going to race. But like I say, if I'm Beneke, you've got Yuyovski behind, you've got House not that far behind, and one little mistake or one audacious send from the Macedonian behind, there is potential for you to be the one to pay the price. So I would rather be in 4th right now.
Well, at least then you've got a protective barrier then, I suppose, between anything that happens from P7 to P6. And of course, you don't want to be falling a fallen victim, essentially, in a mix-up there. Is again going close there, Beneke, as he now looks to push Sebastian Job right behind. Job, in fact, losing time off Thomas Tatler, who's currently owning pretty much no man's land. A second between him and Baldwin, a second between him and Job. And just look at this from Max Beneke, who is certainly getting very close in behind Job now, almost pushing him through the Mercedes Arena curve, whipping through turn 4. They've got a little bit of a stretch now ahead before they then descended towards turn 5 in sector 2. Further back, Yuyovski still in the mix, trying to hold on to that P6, but he himself building a gap. The gap between him and House now nearly out to 0.7 of a second. So Yuyovski starting to find some pace himself. The Audi looking in good form.
Yeah, certainly so. It's looking plenty fast enough at the moment around the Nürburgring Grand Prix. And again, it's that whole thing that there are drivers that, then this is just a thing with sim racing, and it is the same in motorsport as well, as I'm sure you know, George, more so than most, having commentated on GT3 categories, that drivers just love to complain about BOP every single day of the week. It is just it's a normal form of conversation between the lot. But let's just go through this a little bit. Race leader, Team Redline, BMW. 2nd place, Mercedes, obviously a Mercedes. 3rd place, Porsche, Heroic. 4th place, BMW, sure, G2, but then you've got a couple of Audis in behind. We've got all 4 of our marks inside that top 6. I mean, that seems pretty balanced. Let's see if James Baldwin will go for a move now. Seemed to lift off a little early there.
Well, I tell you what, a race win would do wonders for James Baldwin's confidence. I think obviously he himself has spoken about how their early form hasn't necessarily been representative of what they believe to be the best performance that they can bring to the table. I'm sure without any shadow of a doubt, he gets a better exit, I would argue, heading out to the Coca-Cola curve as well. Will he choose to open up the door in towards turn 1, or will he secure safety of the result? He looks to be getting closer though to the back of the BMW. Inside line now for James Baldwin as he goes for the lead of the race here in semi-final 1. He has the favourable inside line 2, but Bennett looking to try and hold on, wants to hold on to a great record here at the Nürburgring, and does so brilliantly. But James Baldwin asking the big questions even in the early stages of the semi-final. Brilliant scenes.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. I mean, Bennett at the moment, he's done, well, this is his 5th race around the Nürburgring in ESL R1, having obviously won the 3 races in round 3 of ESL R1. Obviously finished runner-up. He has a 100% podium record around here, but he wants to bring that percentage of race wins back up to 80%, which he would do here, having won 4 of 5 races if he can take this one. But James Baldwin, I mean, these are two proper talents in the world of sim racing, and you know, one of them is the young gun in the form of Luke Bennett. James Baldwin's the driver. This bin round, he's done a bit, he's picked up a few awards, he's won a fair amount in the world of sim racing. What can he do here? It is a lot of experience that is sat on the shoulders of Luke Bennett, and had Bennett not won in round 3, I'd be sitting here thinking, can he really deal with that kind of pressure? And the answer is yes, absolutely. I don't have a single doubt in my mind that Luke Bennett's heart rate right now is probably not actually that high. I get the feeling he's a very calm kid.
I think if this was the final, it'd be a very different complexion. But I think we've learned a lot more about James Baldwin in this race rather than anyone else, I think, in this field. Obviously, we've seen the form of Mercedes recently. Baldwin coming off the back of the last round with a 3rd place in our final last time out. And again, showing a great turn of foot heading out of the final corner. Baldwin might yet again go for a send here. Very similar car placement as where he was on the previous lap. Luke Bennett a scratch to the forehead as now they make their way down through towards turn 1 now, heading towards the Castrol S, and there you can see them together. Baldwin not opting for the move just yet, or just sitting in behind, happy to stay there. Nevertheless, as well, we got a battle still firming up now as we're seeing Beneke now looking for a move on Seb Job as well, heading through the Mercedes Arena curve. A right smile on the face of Beneke as Bennett, also should I say Sebastian Job, doing brilliantly to hold back the tide from the man from Mouse as they peel through Sector 1, soon to be Sector 2. Again, a great display from two greats in sim racing.
Yeah, Sebastian Job is doing a really good job defensively. I think he went out a little wide at T1, but that might have been intentional. Missed the apex, but it gives that inside line for T2 in the Mercedes Arena section. Smart play from a driver who knows how to win races, who knows how to get jobs done. I get it. Anyway, moving on. Sebastian Job at the moment is in that 4th spot. Beneke, Yayovski, but then of course Bonnerhaus is sat there. And I get the feeling that, considering that we've seen the straight line speed of that Merc seems to be okay. James Baldwin's shown that off on a couple of occasions, nearly getting quite close to Bennett. I get the feeling Bonnerhaus might try something on Yayovski over the final lap. Obviously, we're on the penultimate lap of this race. There is one more after this. There's that one more attempt down into T1. I get the feeling that if anyone's going to take an offer in that, it would be Bonnerhaus. He's going to get desperate now.
Yeah, he certainly does. Certainly currently sat P7. And, we're here on lap 7 of 8, the penultimate lap. Got one more to take after this one. Yayovski obviously not letting anything phase him right now, still holding on to that 6th spot ahead of the Merc there of Bonnerhaus with Jamie Fluke, who's just parked in behind as well. Now that he's entered the fray, might be a chance here for the ART to find its way into the mix as well. They got nothing to lose at this point. They might as well go for it here as they begin to enter the final lap of the race. AC House now getting a little later on the brakes, heading around the Coca-Cola curve. Of course, both of them chasing Max Beneke, who is chasing Sebastian Job again as well. Up at the top end, Baldwin opting to stay in 2nd as well. Thomas Tatler breaking into that 2nd gap as well, with Job a 2nd back from him. Beneke as well in the mix. There's Yayovski with Bonnerhaus just in behind. We'll look to certainly perhaps pounce heading through the Mercedes Arena curve. They will, of course, have yet another right-hander to take as they peel through the Castrol S and Mercedes Arena curve, down through towards the Valvoline curve very soon as well. But still, Beneke providing a wall against Yayovski, who in turn protecting his placement of P6 against that of Bonnerhaus, who is asking the questions but not getting close enough to manufacture a move here.
But we have seen some late race switches. Obviously, in the quarterfinals, we did see some late race switches going down into NGK. That is surely that's a really good option for some of these, you know, for a last lap dive, right?
Well, you would have thought so. I mean, there's plenty of options. I mean, certainly if you get a good run heading out of the Michael Schumacher S up towards turn 10 of the Michelin curve, then of course you've got the NGK chicane, which we've seen a few moves being made in the past year, certainly back in round 3 when we ran racing here at the Nürburgring. But plenty of opportunity on the table for any driver here on this grid order. Naturally, though, a lot of them will be around that P6, 7 and 8 mark. We'll have to wait and see. Can Bonnerhaus send it up through towards this final sector?
Yeah, we are entering it now, of course. Is there going to be any opportunities? I don't feel Bonnerhaus is quite close enough. Might have to fend off Fluke as well as they head out onto the backstretch towards Ab van Bogen. Is there going to be a last opportunity here? James Baldwin's going to be very close, coming up towards NGK. He's slightly faster on the speed. He's going to go to the right-hand side, commit on the brakes, but I get the feeling Bennett's going to hang on here. On a racetrack that he's got such an impressive record at, Luke Bennett is going to come down to the final corner, covering off Baldwin just a touch, having a couple of looks coming down to that
semi-final section. Team Medline leave the final quarter. It's going to be 4 wins from 5 at the Nürburgring for Luke Bennett, who comes across the line to win again, ahead of Baldwin, Tattler, Sebastian Job, Max Benecke and Erhan Jovski. Bit of a smile on his face as he crosses the line, a bit of a fist bump as well. But a super performance from Luke Bennett. I mean, he did it in qualifying, he did it in the race. Section perfection for the man who knows exactly how to get it done around the Nürburgring. George, what a lad.
Well, he's done it again, hasn't he? A winner here at the Nürburgring, here in the semi-final as well. But what a statement to see James Baldwin literally pushing him around the final corner as well. I get the feeling that was a mentality test from James Baldwin right there, Lewis McGlade.
I also get the feeling that had that have been the final lap of the final, I think we'd have seen maybe not a different result, but we would have seen a different test from Baldwin, who would have challenged up towards that final quarter. Either way, we'll take a look at highlights from the quarter-final and take a look at this race start. A jump start, a false start from both the Porsche Commander drivers. They didn't really move there, not 100% sure as to what has happened with them. But either way, a drive-through penalty for Josh Rogers after a false start. Dáire McCormack also dropped back to the rear of the field. It was not the day that Porsche Commander Esports wanted. There is Rogers into the pit lane, serving that drive-through for a jump start, and questions we asked the Porsche Commander Esports team as to what even happened there. On board with Bonnerhouse, who was trying to attack Maximilian Benecke, who was down the inside of Erhan Jovski at T1. Benecke getting his way through, Jovski not able to fend off. And then it was this fight between the top two in the race, Luke Bennett, James Baldwin. Baldwin tried down the inside of T1, but Bennett was wise enough to fend off his older compatriot and keep hold of the race lead. A couple of mistakes seemed like they were coming in for G2 Sevi. Sebastian Job on his debut in ESL R1 was just able to keep him at bay for now, was dealing with the pressure, was really soaking it up, and coming down to the final corner. Speaking of soaking up pressure, Luke Bennett was just able to do so ahead of James Baldwin. The two of them separated by almost nothing across the line, but Baldwin looking very strong indeed. Heading into this Monday, heading into the semi-finals of ESL R1. Luke Bennett crosses the line though as the victor. We'll be joined in the interviews not by a race winner in Luke Bennett, but by someone who we definitely want to catch up with. It's Sebastian Job. Hello mate, how are you doing? Oh, I don't think we can hear Sebastian Job at the moment. We'll see if we can have that one adjusted. I'm sure you can hear me. Maybe you've got a pen and paper about. No, I'm joking. We'll see. Do an audio test. Let's see.
Can you hear me now?
There we go. We can hear you now. Yeah, how are you doing?
Ah, nice. Yeah, I'm good, thanks. How are you?
Yeah, all good. After a race like that's fantastic. You had to deal with a lot of pressure in that race. I mean, talk us through that for a second.
Yeah, a little bit too much pressure for my liking, to be honest. The quarterfinal was a lot more enjoyable. Wasn't really happy with my qualifying lap. I was in practice consistently a lot quicker than that, but just kind of felt the pressure a bit, and the first sector was rubbish, and that's it from that point on. You know, you're up against it, but just about got sixth, and then got fortunate at the start. Two Porsche cars had really bad starts. And then I was in, I believe, fourth for the rest of the race, and it was just kind of managing the tyres for the rest of it. I could see some cars were clearly having more pace. I've not really put too much time into race practice, being limited on practice, so I knew race pace isn't really my strong suit, so I was just kind of hoping people wouldn't get too angsty behind me and kind of slot in, and that's how it went, and just kind of cruised home to fourth, but it wasn't as comfortable as I'd like.
Now, Reg Sport's obviously new to you. By the way, congratulations the other day on winning the Porsche Esports Carrera Cup GB. That was for a second time. Congrats for that
Thank
one.
you.
How does this kind of compare to obviously you're jumping between simulators quite a lot now. How does it kind of compare? How are you getting up to speed with it? What's the difficulties and the differences?
Yeah, I've actually. So yesterday I hopped on to iRacing and I had to get used to that, and that was a big struggle because the driving styles are basically the polar opposites. But coming back to Rennsport, I actually found it really easy. Like, it only took maybe 10-15 laps because I already had the base knowledge there of what I needed to do. And once I hopped back on, because of the driving style, and I really like the way that the force feedback feels, it kind of just all falls into place and you can really feel the car. Whereas when I went the other way, not to diss iRacing, but I was like, my perception of speed was a little bit off, and I was missing corners. It took a bit more adjusting. So coming back this way was a little bit easier. But it's just a very aggressive driving style. You know, you're braking hard all the time, using the throttle to rotate the car. It's very different, but I'm enjoying it a lot.
Well, Sebastian, thank you so much for joining us. We'll see you again in the final. Cheers, mate.
Cheers.
I guess back once again. George, that was a little bit of a hectic race start, to say the very least. What on earth ended up happening with the two Porsche Commander cars? For a second I was like, is that brain lag? Is that actual lag? Or is that just a vehicle breakdown? What on earth ended up happening? How much of an impact do you think that race start in itself ended up having on their end result?
Well, in the end, it turned out to be everything. Obviously, having the likes of Dane Warren, who is notoriously fast, not to mention the like of Joshua Rogers as well. Obviously, Rogers, a former finalist winner to boot. Not only getting a poor start, but also ending up into the pit lane as well. In fact, we can have a look at the highlights, certainly from the race time, particularly, and we can analyse it together. Obviously, as you can see, getting off the line. If you look at the Porsche Commander car there on the left, you can see it just in front of the G2, just not getting a great start at all. And I tell you what, quick thinking from Yuyovski to get out of the way of that particular incident. You can just see them running off wide there as well. Great start as well for James Baldwin, who automatically positioned himself into second place. Also, shout out as well to Thomas Tatler for Heroic. But there is Yuyovski's preview. That could have ended so badly, and then he managed to get past the other Porsche Commander car as well. Not ideal at all if you are a Porsche Commander fan. Obviously, losing two of your key individuals. Dane Warren, who, like I said, is very, very rapid. He, of course, not having to come into the pit lane to serve any drive-throughs. Obviously, no jump start on his account. But if you're Joshua Rogers, you're going to be kicking yourself in that situation.
I gotta say, it was really quick thinking from a lot of the other drivers. I was expecting a little bit of a mass collision between every single person there, but it was hardly any damage done, and I think that in itself was incredibly impressive. But talking a little bit more about the race results for Josh Rogers, was that your prediction, by the way? I'm pretty sure it was. Second place starting grid position. This has gotta hurt for him.
Yeah, it hurts me too. You know, obviously, Rogers being down there. Bennett, though, winning, absolutely tremendous job from him. James Baldwin, I think we learnt a lot in terms of where Mercedes are. I think at this point here at the Nürburgring, the pace is definitely there. Thomas Tatler, what a turn of foot from Heroic. Their form has just jettisoned since the wins from Tommy Usgaard, not to mention the star performances in the final. Seb Job, proving that he is still one of the best, and comes into Rennsport for the very first time in his first semi-final. Now he's going to be in his very first final as well. Max Benneker returning with a blast as well. Erhan Yuyovski trying to turn that form around. RHG still in the mix, but Bono House still unable to get into the final. I think that would be a big kick for him. Struggles for ART. BMW struggling as well, but Porsche Commander was certainly, I think, the dampeners in that particular race.
Obviously, Thomas Tatler is bound to be in high spirits now, giving Heroic their second finals placement so far. Pressure is going to be weighing in heavy on their shoulders for sure, but I'm curious to check in with the chat and see how their predictions ended up unfolding here, George, because I don't know if you saw, I did post it in our chat with me, you and Lewis. I was rooting for Luke Bennett all the way, and it was a little bit disappointing to see only 6% of people in the chat thought that the former Nürburgring winner could do it again.
Yeah, that 6% only came in after he got pole position as well. So incredible, really. But they were right to go with James Baldwin to a certain degree. Like, I believe, and I agree with Lewis McGlade, had it been the last lap of the final, that outcome could have been very different, and that 33% could have been celebrating at that point. It was a tremendous performance by the Mercedes driver, and a perfect follow-on from his third place in our last final.
Yeah, absolutely. But how do you think we did with our match, the outcome? That's the real question. Did you manage to check any off of your list?
I haven't yet. I don't think so anyway. I mean, Sebastian Job didn't get pole, so that's a struggle. But Joshua Rogers didn't quite do donuts either, so he didn't see any of those. He went into the pit lane. Can we make an amendment there for pit lane instead of donut? But I don't know. It was a tough one. But no, I think obviously we'll see more as we go through tonight. But yeah, exciting times.
Well, another reminder for everybody in the chat as well, if you want to get involved with our Match the Outcome, lots of other fun activities and also the giveaway we have as well, go ahead and type !social in the chat and drop a follow at ESL_R1 as well. I'm super excited to continue on with the rest of the show, but before I do that, I have a little bit of a teaser for you all. After our recap of quarterfinals 3 and 4, we have none other than Harvey joining us from the side of Team Williams. So I'm really excited for us to quiz him about the journey of Williams so far and all of the fabulous drivers too. But without further ado, I think it's about time we get a little bit of a recap for our quarterfinals 3 and 4.
And on then to highlights from quarter final 3. Tommy Usgaard starting this one from pole position alongside Jeffrey Rietveld. There's Kaki Oliveira just giving a couple of nudges through that first corner at the start of the second lap. This is the battle though for 7th position, not inside that top 6, not inside those positions that will transfer through into the semi-finals. But Jori Tourmalet was trying to do something about it, was trying to move his way through. Penultimate lap of the race though, and it was Jiri Toman that was trying to make his way past Jeffrey Rietveld. Around the outside of Jeffrey Rietveld, was not able to make his way through on this occasion. Mitchell de Jong though looking just for some all-important points as they're all trying to race their way through into the Rennsport Summit at the Spring Major. Mitchell de Jong trying to get that extra point off of Oliveira, sending it through, fighting really hard on the final lap of the race. It was de Jong that was coming out on top in that occasion. Tommy Usgaard though, well, he looked strong a week ago, and he looks strong here as well. Tommy Usgaard out of the final corner, take another win in ESL R1. Rietveld and Toman separated by just over a tenth across the line. Yuri Kanstorp, Marko Pejic, and Jakub Brzezinski onto semi-final 2. And then on to quarter-final 4 as we look for the final 6 drivers to move through into the semi-finals. Moritz Lerner would be starting this one from pole position. However, his start would be poor. Eamon Murphy would come through to take the race lead down to the first corner for G2 Esports. Up through the chicane on the first lap, and it was getting very messy indeed between this group. Rainer Talvar and Peter Berryman all over the place going through NGK. And then Ian Porter battling out with Graham Carroll for 11th and 12th position. Carroll would come through going through the final corner. Moritz Lerner was still feisty. He was fighting. He was desperate for a race win to represent Mouse here. Eamon Murphy was just able to hang on. Moritz Lerner not quite able to fight, but he was still working over the rear end of that BMW, of that G2 Esports car, looking for any opportunity. He'd almost have one, but it was more looking backwards because Gall would make his way through up into 2nd position. Mikael Gall up into that 2nd spot. Moritz Lerner down to 3rd, and Mac Backham was the next one to try and fight his way through. Jack Keithley, another one of our debutants for the Williams Esports team, was having a bit of a slide going through NGK. Unfortunately, it looks like 7th was only as good as it would be for him. G2 Esports were back up onto the podium, but this time it was on top. Eamon Murphy in 1st, Mikael Gala, Moritz Lerner, Mac Backham, Kevin Siggy and Lasse Sorensen, the top 6 provisionally in quarterfinal 4.
Well, that was a little bit more tame than what we're used to here at the ESL R1 broadcast, George. How about you take me through our final set of semi-final number 2 drivers?
Yeah, I think obviously Tommy Usgaard with his 2nd pole of the season and winning the race like he did, I think was effectively brilliant. And here is the head-to-head. Obviously, Mikael Gala, his teammate, Heroic really on an upward trajectory. They've just witnessed Thomas Tatler pulling off the big results, but 2 top 3 placements apiece, 2 semi-final appearances apiece, with a fastest lap to boot as well. Looking ahead of semi-final 2, obviously plenty to come. Obviously, Jiri Toman in the mix, Moritz Lerner as well, Eamon Murphy the story. What a win for G2 Esports and a key moment, I think, in their championship.
I think for them, the real question has to be what has changed, right? Because they went from not a single finals placement. Previous round, they got their first one. And then having their 3 drivers through to the semi-finals, I'm like, was there something special in their food? I'm curious to know what might have changed. Is there anything that you might have noticed just from watching them race?
It could be anything. I mean, they seem more aggressive. There seems to be a lot more intensity around the team. I think, again, if we can take another look at the head-to-head graphics, I think that tells a big story. I mean, if you look at the likes of Tommy Usgaard getting 2 top 3 placements, that's the show of consistency. Mikael Gala also showing that pace too. The semi-final appearances for both drivers, both matching at 2 as well. Thomas Tatler in the mix. The team as a whole seems to be rising. It's like a phoenix performance in this championship, and it's great to see them coming into the mix for their first season in sim racing.
And I think if anything, this has to be inspiration for a lot of other teams and a lot of drivers as well. Week after week, we have seen improvement, not just on the side of Heroic, but a lot of our other teams as well. But I think what better way to get an inside perspective from some of the teams, the workings behind, the fabulous drivers that are ultimately there, than for us to quiz Javier, joining us from the side of Team Williams. Firstly, welcome to the broadcast. How are you doing?
Hello, thank you very much. I'm great. Super happy to be here. Thank you very much.
Well, it's our pleasure to have you here. Now, for the folks at home and for us, would you like to explain what it is exactly your responsibilities of team manager for the R1 series for Team Williams?
Yeah, well, I've been aboard this project since day one, since we decided to run the esports program here at Williams Racing. And at the moment, I'm the esports coordinator or operations manager. And I'm also team manager in the team, so it's been a big challenge for me to be, responsible for the whole team and the, the experience that we're having in this new competition. And it's great for the team and for us to be here in this championship.
Yeah, Javi, just following on from that, obviously this, how do you summarise the team's performance so far in the ESL R1? Have the results been as you expect, or I mean, how do you plot your I suppose your growth as the championship has gone on?
I mean, so far we are really happy. We started everything in Katowice, quite tough for us, for the team, for the drivers. It was not the best event in our opinion, because ups and downs in terms of results. But I mean, we also were happy in the last two rounds with Dáire winning the final races. So again, it doesn't matter where we started. It matters where we are right now in the fight and top three. So let's score points and hopefully we can be on the fight for in the last round.
Now, as we take a look at some of the growth and improvement yourself and the team have had, I need to ask you, what prompted the decision of having this big old driver change and the addition of Jack Keithley in particular?
Nothing personal on this. I mean, Dennis is a great driver. He's been great with the drivers, practicing and taking part in all the training and practicing with all the teammates and everything. And Jack as well. Jack was happy to be on Dennis' place for the next rounds. And Dennis has also some other races to join, so he's not going to be inactive at any point. He's going to be still in the team and be racing in other championships and series. And full confidence on Jack. He's been great in the team. I mean, he's been here also since the first year, and we know he's able to be on the top. So let's focus and see if we can get the best results now in the team.
Yeah, and Javi, just quickly on Dáire McCormack, obviously not here today, didn't get through from the quarterfinal on this occasion, but how integral has he been to the team, obviously coming off the back of setting a record here in ESL R1, being the first driver to take 2 consecutive final wins?
Yeah, I don't think it's going to be the only record he will break in this competition or in the whole year. He's been great. I mean, we are probably facing one of the best sim racers we have had in the team and probably in the sim racing overall. And what he's doing in the championship is great, not only in terms of results, also what he's doing in the team, all the, keeping all the team together and making sure that we get all the results as a team, and him personally as a driver. And again, I'm super proud of him to have him here, and what he's doing for the team and for the championship and everything is massive. I'm really happy.
Well, Javi, thank you so much for joining us. Before I let you go, though, are there any final words you want to give to either your team, the folks at home, anybody at all?
I just want to wish the best of luck to Cuba. We are probably facing the most difficult round of the season right now, but he's still in the fight. He can get some points, and hopefully, I mean, no pressure on him. I don't want to feel him now the pressure, but again, let's hope we can leave this round with some points, and hopefully, again, as I said before, be on the fight for the last rounds and for the championship. And yeah, good luck to everyone.
Well, thank you so much for joining us, Harvey. It's been a pleasure having you here. Now, George, we have had a little bit of a groundbreaking revelation, time and time again, by the way. Lap records continue to be broken. So let's find out exactly what happened with Josh Rogers over on Nürburgring.
Well, who better to take a look around the circuit with than Josh Rogers himself out through the final corner. And a look around the Nürburgring Grand Prix circuit. 5.1 kilometres will drive over the grid here. This is where they'll be starting the races on that race down towards the first corner. Really tricky to get this one right, especially when you've got 3 or 4 cars all around you in that opening portion of the race. Josh Rogers nailing that apex coming up towards turn 2. And this is the entrance to the Mercedes Arena section where you can really make a few good moves into 3 and 4. You can dive it down the inside. You can really send it around the outside. You've got to remember the inside here leads to the outside through turn 4, which actually works. You run all the way wide and you can carry that speed down towards turn 5, going past the Mercedes grandstand into turn 5, going in for a nice early apex there and then pulling it back over to the left hand side so you can have a nice line through turn 6, running out all over onto that green sort of concrete on the left hand side and the race down towards the hairpin. Whilst it is a hairpin, it's not necessarily a good overtaking opportunity. It's kind of you're scrubbing off the speed going through it, trail braking through the corner. You're not really slamming onto the brakes and opening up for an opportunity. Up through the Schumacher S. What a section of corners, almost pinned. You do have to lift just to get that nose in, but a fantastic complex through the Schumacher S, up towards turn 10, through into turn 11, through Warsteiner and onto the back stretch. Really tricky corner this. If you commit a little bit too much, you can dip 2 wheels into that gravel and it will slow you down. It will slow the run all the way around here, and that's what's going to cause you to lose a couple of positions. Through Ad Van Bogen, up towards the NGK chicane. Good overtaking opportunity this. You're more setting it up for the final corner through here, though. You can send it down the inside, but it's more about getting the drivers offline as they come up towards that final corner. Heading through in the 15th and final turn and out through onto the start-finish straight. That is a lap around the Nürburgring Grand Prix with all 5.1 kilometres it has to show on board with Josh Rogers.
Well, 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 George, as we have the practice session underway right now, semi-final 2 is almost there and ready to go as well. But very shortly after semi-final 2, we'll have none other than Crimsix joining us on the broadcast as well to ask about his journey so far and his transition into sim racing, all the way from Call of Duty as well. So for the folks in chat, if you have any questions you want to throw his way, feel free to do so, or remember to @ESL_R1 as well. But it is almost predictions time, George. Talk to me. How are you feeling about how this semi-final number 2 is going to go?
Well, my confidence has been shot after the first one, but hey, let's move on. We've got semi-final 2 here at this point. I tell you what, I'm going to throw my hat in the ring for Tommy Usgaard. I think this guy's brilliant. Fantastic human being, and what a character. I hope you can do it.
All right. Okay. Let's go ahead and bring Lewis in and get his thoughts on this. Lewis, how are you feeling?
I am leaning towards Moritz Lerner. I mean, Tommy Usgaard's a great guess, but to be fair, I've put him down as waving to the camera, and I've put Moritz Lerner down as winning a race. So, Moritz, mate, it's now or never. So please do.
Okay, I think only time will tell which one of you is going to come out on top. But I think without further ado, gents, it's about that time again. Good luck, have fun.
Thank you, Jasmine. Yes, onwards and upwards, folks. Semi-final 2 action, and we're going to be sending the next group of drivers through as our second batch going into the final for later on tonight. Obviously, we witnessed a brilliant semi-final 1 here, Lewis, coming off the back of a brilliant Luke Bennett performance. The big question is, who is going to bring us a brilliant performance to take first spot this time around? Tom Usgaard, obviously coming off the back of a sensational quarter-final, returning here again. Perfect follow-up, really, from what he did in our last round.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know what he's had for breakfast the last couple of weeks, but man, he is quick. Tommy Usgaard really figuring things out in ESL R1 on Reg Sport. I mean, again, I couldn't agree. I think he looks really, really strong, and also, what a nice guy. Seriously, like I think everyone became a really big Tommy Usgaard fan a week ago. But don't count out teams like Team Redline. Of course, Luke Bennett has just won, and there are 2 Team Redline drivers in this with Jeff Rietveld and Kevin Siggy. Who really knows? There is one of them.
Yeah, absolutely. Kevin Siggy coming into this one, and obviously his story, I think, throughout this season championship, obviously he has struggled in places. Yeah, obviously coming off the back of the issues that he had at Katowice, trying to bounce back. It just took a little bit of time for him to find his feet in places. He even admitted that himself. But obviously coming in for Team Redline, obviously off the back of seeing, obviously Bennett taking the big result in our first semi-final, that's surely got to stir up something within him in order to maybe even match his teammates' performance.
Just, do you know one thing that really impresses, well, not impresses, sorry, that is very much the wrong word to use here. It surprises me with Team Redline, and particularly with Jeffrey Rietveld, right, is that we know how strong Jeffrey Rietveld is, right?
Yeah.
He has not got to a final yet. Semi-final, quarter-final, semi-final, quarter-final, semi-final, and now into a semi-final as well. Is this the round that he finally breaks that up and gets his way into a quarter-final? I don't know, but now's as good a time as any, mate.
Well, this is the round where we saw the loss of Dáire McCormack and obviously the likes of many other big names as well. I mean, anything can happen at this point. So obviously throw in the likes of Jeffrey Rietveld. We know his quality. This could be the time when he starts to pitch in some big results. And what a time to do it, to find your best form as well, seeing as we're getting closer and closer to Munich, where obviously every point will count, and getting into the top 24 is vital. And obviously I'm sure Redline would prefer to have all their cars in the final round at Munich, or certainly at the major, should I say, at the summit in Munich. Surely that has to be on their mind.
You've got to, obviously that is every team's goal, right? Yes, it is stating the obvious, but to actually make that the case, there's only 24 drivers that go to the Rennsport Summit in the Spring Major. That is not many. And so to be that 24, yeah, you're in a tall order. Let's see what Kevin Siggy does across the line, though.
Yeah, Kevin Siggy, 53.199. Now remember, Baldwin set a very late 52 in our previous session. That was the first fast time we saw. Of course, that was very much taken away by Luke Bennett. But can Toman on his return join the fight?
Yeah, see what he does across the line. 53.2. Oh, my goodness me. Yeah, it's not great. Again, lost a lot of time in that second sector. Rietveld's down a little in the second, down a little in the first as well. Could be looking at a couple of tenths off it.
He looks a bit frustrated too, heads up towards the line, second fastest, goes quicker than Toman by 10 thousandths of a second, but 42 thousandths slower than his teammate Kevin Siggy. But here comes Marko Pejic, who needs something special to ignite his form lately.
Yeah, needs a decent final sector here. It is going to be a decent final sector as well. 53.0. I was going to say his first sector is actually pretty much bob on. Second sector lost a 10. Really brought that one back though. Mega stuff, and here's the lap we want to see. Come on, Tommy, you can do it.
The heroic hero, Tommy Østgaard, now makes his way up towards the line. A little bit of frustration as well, venting his feelings. It's not going to be a heroic lap, a slap on the wheel. I'd rather a wave, Tommy.
Yep, same. We both voted for a wave from Tommy Østgaard. We're not quite getting it now. This is my pick for the winner, and sorry, mate, might have not cursed, but it doesn't exist. But first and second sector, not too good for Moritz Lerner as he crosses the line. Just 6th place, 2 tenths off of the pole.
Yeah, we heard Javi's comments about Brzezinski, who now makes his way up towards the line. Jakub Brzezinski now goes second fastest. Brilliant lap there from Jakub Brzezinski. Still no time in the 152s, but a very early 153 will help.
I would not have called a Merc 1-2 in this session. Obviously, one from the Mercedes team themselves, the other one from Williams. Yuri Kasdorp now will come across the line, and he goes to pole. 53.084, 4 thousandths clear of Pejic. He said that this was the round he was going to start turning things around. He's showing it now.
Yeah, and look what it means to him as well. We've got Eamon Murphy up towards the line after a sensational semi-final performance. Look at this, top 4, all within a tenth of a second. Eamon Murphy only able to find fourth fastest, but here comes the fury of Lasse Sorensen.
Little deep out of the final corner, just pushing it a little bit too much. I think there's a bit of understeer inside the car, and it drops him to 10th. And it was almost like a bit of a, well, quarter of a second off a pole. Sorry, mate, but that's only good enough for 10th. Here comes Mac Backham. It's Big Mac.
Yeah, Big Mac is back, coming up towards the line now, looking to try and turn around the form from Porsche Coanda from our earlier race. 6th fastest for the Big Mac, just outside 1.5 tenths of a second off the pace of Yuri Kasdorp, but in the top 6. That's the vital place to be.
Frustrations for Tommy Østgaard. Heroic are looking really strong, but what can Mikael Gahl do as he'll come across the line? He's in 12th, obviously. He moves to just a position ahead of his teammate in 9th. Very big frustrations for the Heroic team. Yuri Kasdorp out of nowhere. Well, we didn't preview that one. I mean, I'm almost speechless. What a job.
Incredible scenes here. Obviously, nowhere near the times that we saw in our previous session, but let's take you through the starting grid. Nonetheless, folks, for this race we've got coming up, of course, semi-final 2, powered by VRS as well. And we're going to go through them from back to front. Lasse Sorensen at the back, alongside Moritz Lerner. Who'd have thought Tommy Usgaard, the hero from Heroic, unable to match his previous form. He's going to start alongside Mikael Gala, his teammate, on the second row from the back. We got Yuri Toman then up from them with Jeffrey Rietveld for Team Redline. They're side by side with the Big Mac Backham and Porsche Coanda, who sits alongside Kevin Siggy. We've then got Eamon Murphy in 4th place, who lines up for G2 Esports alongside Jakub Brzezinski, who's showing an upward curve in form for Williams. Marko Pejic turning things around, front row for him, alongside Yuri Kazdorp and Mouse.
Just going to say something, by the way. As much as I will vigilantly defend the fact that the commentator's curse doesn't exist, we did just pick drivers that qualified 10th and 11th. So, whoops. But still, what do you think is going to happen? There is a straw poll where you can let us know and tell us, tell us exactly what's been going on. The current standings of the straw poll see Moritz Lerner on top. Sorry about that one. Sorry. Whoops.
I hate that. I get the feeling that we're partially responsible for some of these. Obviously, looking at the votes that we're seeing on the screen. But Tommy Usgaard, obviously, a 21.05. Moritz Lerner, a 26.32 at the top end. Marko Pejic gets some votes as well. Yuri Toman got a small plethora of votes as well, 5.26. Not ideal, though. Certainly for RAG, would have probably preferred to be a little higher. Was a little frustrated. Mikael Gala getting some votes as well. There is some love out there for the Heroic team. But you never know. Anything can happen in racing, Lewis. They can turn all this around.
I've got a few messages from Dane Baird, which I'm just not going to open because I know it's going to be something about the fact that the commentator's curse definitely does exist. So, not great. You keep focused on your job. No, they're going to be left unread. Dane Baird, of course, one of the people behind the scenes doing some of the cameras and stuff for us. One other thing that I want to say in there is one other driver that I almost feel a little like there's some outside discomfort from. Mac Backham. Now, obviously, in the previous race, 2 teammates of his, racing in the same building, by the way, Josh Rogers and Dane Warren, both had big issues on the start. Is there something in the back of Mac Backham's mind where he's like, maybe that's going to happen to me as well? If it was out of their control.
Well, you never know. I mean, look, anything can happen, as we said before, and, very short formats here in ESL R1, and every mistake, you're going to pay the price. Certainly, if you're Matt Backham, you want to put that at the back of your mind. You don't want to be hindered by things that would have affected your teammates in an earlier round, and he's got to be that breath of fresh air to ignite the flame that is the Porsche Coanda team. They know what they're capable of, and I certainly wouldn't want to write off Matt Backham at this point, Lewis.
No, certainly not. I mean, to be fair, I wouldn't really want to write off anyone on the grid, although I do get the feeling that if you are starting outside of that top 6, with the quality of grid that we have, unless we see the largest crash that we've seen in ESL R1, which T1 is a very big potential of that, I don't think you can win from outside. To be fair, I don't think you can win unless you're starting on the front 2 rows. I just don't see it as being possible, and it all comes down to that race start.
It does, and we saw that obviously earlier on. I tell you what, Yovski was very fortunate in the last race as well, but here come now the lights, ready for semi-final 2. 3rd light, all 4 lights are lit. And it's pedal to the metal, and it is go, and a brilliant launch indeed as they now make their way down towards turn 1. Marko Pejic down the inside, certainly for the mouse that's alongside him as they head through now towards turn 1. Jakub Brzezinski also getting in the mix too. A little bit of overspeed. Oh, nearly getting off the track there, certainly, as we saw Eamon Murphy very nearly losing it, heading through Mercedes Arena. There's the big Mac Backham off the circuit now as he looks to go around the outside there of what looks to be Yuri Toman as they go side by side now. Through to the next right. Big launch from Mac Backham, who tries to get himself into the top 6.
Yeah, someone definitely gave a half spin, maybe a bit of a slide to Jeffrey Rietveld through T1. That's what's caused him to drop back even a little bit further. Now he's battling it out with Moritz Lerner for 9th position. Mac Backham, we're looking ahead. There is Jeffrey Rietveld, side by side between him, side by side for the 2 heroic cars behind Gardner Scard as they'll head down towards the hairpin. Jeff Rietveld had some issues. The thing is, that could cause some penalties, and then a big look to the inside from Lerner.
Yeah, absolutely. A big look indeed by Mikael Gala coming together with Tommy Usgaard yet again as well, side by side between the pair as they head up through now this next segment, the Michael Schumacher S section as well off the track, losing that front end slightly going up in the air. Matt Backham, though, a great launch, getting himself now just on the cusp of on the cusp of that top 6, that vital top 6 that you need if you want to be a presence in our next final. Obviously, that's coming up later on. Obviously, currently being held by Yuri Toman in P6. We got, we got instance in investigation. The race director, the stewards, not wasting any time here, Lewis.
Yeah, Torzhammer's about to come down, I think, on a couple of drivers. Not sure who it'll be. Who did you pick, by the way, for getting a penalty?
For Torzhammer, I did pick Moritz Lerner, believe it or not. So I do wonder whether there might be something there.
Yeah, no, I mean, to be fair, when he was looking down the inside of the Dunlop hairpin, I was thinking, oh, well, here we go. I picked Yuri Toman, and I'm not 100% sure if he was completely clean through T1. I'm sure not too many were. Lasse Sorensen's looking to get down the inside of Big Mac, because Big Mac's probably sent it. Oh, my goodness me! That was a costly mistake.
I just literally threw my pen. Lewis all the way around again. Yuri Toman. Oh, his reaction says it all. Punishment here in turn 1. And you can see the look on his face. I tell you what a moment. It just all came together. Mac Backham with an almighty send in towards turn 1. Simply lost it at that point. And now we've had a right change up in the top 6. Kevin Siggy now adopting that P6 place. Tommy Usgaard now looking to take full advantage of this now as him and Lerner come together on the outset now. Still they remain side by side. The Audi, the Mouse looking to try and hold on. The heroic Porsche on the outside now as they peel through towards turn 7. They're still side by side. Nothing separates them. Through towards the right now. Who's bravest as they peel on through? The Audi, the Mouse looks to have the upper hand. He does. It's Moritz Lerner who holds on to P8. But I tell you what, sit tight, folks. I get the feeling we're going to have some Torhammer, intervention at this point. The stewards are not going to say no to that.
Bit of a mistake there from Usgaard as well. Gala's going to get alongside. Big send down the inside from Rietveld as well for Team Redline, who looks to once again not get through to a final. Yeah, I think we've got some big stuff coming in. I don't want to speak on behalf of Race Control, on behalf of the Tour as well, because yeah, I'm not in that place and I'm not seeing it every instant. But I am almost guaranteeing a penalty for Mac Backham there. I don't see him getting through that one cleanly. I don't really see him getting through to a final. So for Porsche Commander Esports, it could be over here with 2 drivers out in semi-final 1, potentially 1 out here in semi-final 2. There is a look at Mac Backham. I mean, unfortunately, he's very clearly either gone into T1 with too much speed, i.e. from the slipstream, and misjudged it, or just missed his braking point. It was actually very easy to do around the Nürburgring, and as soon as you've done that, you're a passenger. It's such a tight line down to T1, and he's just cleaned them off. I'm surprised it wasn't a bigger crash than it was. Unfortunately, Yuri Toman, I mean, there were 4 wide leaving the corner. I'm not really too sure what could be done about that one, but again, we only saw it from 1 or 2 angles. Very dramatic semi-final 2 here.
It certainly was. I mean, Matt Backham obviously looking to try and propel his way forwards. We have to wait and see what will happen in terms of the results here. But naturally, if there is a big, hefty penalty placed on Matt Backham, we have got a replay here. Oh, goodness me. A major launch. And I think that is a G2 car. Is that Team Redline car on the outside there that we're seeing? Oh, there we go. Yuri Toman around there at this point. But yes, a big moment indeed. And Eamon Murphy, I think, who might have been on the end of that. I think it actually might have been Kevin Siggy.
It was Redline.
It was Team Redline, so it must have been Kevin Siggy in the mix of that particular fray. But yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if Matt Backham is going to fall victim to the stewards on this occasion.
And I'm sure he'll probably know that already. It'll be going through his mind. The second part of that incident that sent Yuri Toman around, probably the most frustrating bit from Yuri Toman's point of view, is realistically looking at what I was looking at. There isn't really anyone to blame. There were 2 wide on the inside of him. There was, like, he's obviously going to come across a little bit, but the 2 on the inside, what can they do? You know, what, like, they're already there. They're already fighting it out. You've effectively got a car rejoining ahead of you. I don't really blame either of them. Again, Race Control can see it from 1,000 different angles, so they can have a better judgment on that one. But for me, Yuri Toman's departure from that point in the race was kind of like, so it's just one of those racing deals in that bit. You know, you're 4 wide leaving T1, almost 5 wide a little bit in there. It's a recipe for disaster. Unfortunately, RHG don't really care about that because they've only got 1 car in the final now, because Yuri Toman, I'm absolutely sure, will not be one of them. It will just be a Haniovsky from semi-final 1.
Yeah, an innocent bystander in that tussle. There's Kevin Siggy, who was very fortunate in that exchange. Obviously, because he had that outside line almost protected, Yuri Toman was almost a shield in that situation, and he was able to come out of it in the top 6 as well. Could be just a bit of luck that he's been looking for, obviously, to help his championship continue. Obviously, still chasing after Mac Backham. who provisionally holds onto that P5 for now. Obviously, we'll bring you updates, folks, as we get them from race control and the steward's desk too. Naturally, I can guarantee they're probably spending a little bit of time on it. Jakub Brzezinski for the Williams team also up in 3rd place as well, chasing after Marko Pejic. Great race for Brzezinski right now, obviously taking advantage of the current situation. And a super drive from Marko Pejic as well here, Lewis.
Big time, big time. Marko Pejic doing a phenomenal job at the moment. I mean, obviously he did get through into a final last week. Both he and Baldwin did. Baldwin already making his way through into a final with the runner-up position in the previous race. Pejic looking to join him at the moment. He did finish in 3rd position. So for both the Mercs, they're actually kind of moving a little bit further forward, because obviously they were both in 3rd position in their respective semi-finals a week ago, and now they're both running in 2nd place. Maybe Pejic has got a little bit more in store for us. This is a big drive from Marko Pejic. He looks pretty calm and casual in there, but you know, clearly the Merc seems fine, and they've really figured something out with this car.
They certainly have. Pejic obviously coming off the back of finishing 12th in our last final. Brzezinski also featured in our previous final, coming P10 in that affair. Kevin Siggy, who's now currently under threat from Lasse Sorensen in behind as well. We know that Sorensen likes to fight. We saw him scrap earlier on in the championship when we went racing in Spa as well, and he looks to have the run heading out of the Coca-Cola curve. If he can get in the slipstream, it might open up for him here as they hurtle down through towards turn 1. Up ahead as well, you can then see the cars grouping up together. Of course, Sorensen on the cusp of that P6 place, needs it if he wants to get a placement into the final, though he could get it regardless should a penalty be awarded to Mac Backham. As they head through Mercedes Arena curve now, they're going to be traipsing their way through towards this next right-hander out of this loop section. Turn 4 coming up next as they now hurtle through it. There's Kevin Siggy, as you can see. I think he's more concerned about Sorensen in behind right now rather than Mac Backham at this point, Lewis.
Yeah, certainly so. Sorensen's on the charge, and obviously Moritz Lerner will try and close in, although I have seen Moritz Lerner's dropping out by about a 10. If I'm Lasse Sorensen, I mean, obviously you've seen all of the drama that's happened, and all of these drivers in this kind of area probably know that someone's getting a penalty of some description. They're not exactly sure as to who, and so realistically for Lasse Sorensen, he'll just be like, honestly, it doesn't matter. Until that penalty's come down, until they know what's going on, until they know the state of affairs, the race is the race. I.e., you're in 7th position at the moment, and it doesn't matter there is a potential, maybe a slam dunk penalty for anyone ahead. It doesn't matter. Here we go, though. Mikael Gars received a drive-through penalty for corner cutting. So for the heroic team, that is not a very heroic stance in this race. So he'll be dropping back down to 12th place with a drive-through penalty.
Yeah, he certainly will be, and so that's not ideal at all. Yet again, Porsche's not really having a great day here at the Nürburgring. Obviously, we saw that of Porsche Coanda in our previous run. This, of course, being the heroic Porsches who both, unfortunately, were cemented to the back end at the start of this race. Lasse Sorensen, though, going back onto your point, though, Lewis, it's essentially that you've got to put all if, buts and maybes at the back of your mind. And Mac Backham receiving a forced speed limit, 10-second, 60 kilometers per hour in zone due to forcing another car off the track. So that's the penalty. He's got to give up the place. So Kevin Siggy essentially will overtake him, as will everyone else in this field, Lewis.
Yeah, I'm not actually 100% sure as to where the slowdown is. I'm trying to think of, I'm pretty sure from memory when we did it in round 3, it's going down to the Dunlop hairpin, coming out of T5, T6, whatever it is, down towards the hairpin. I'm pretty sure it's there. So Mac Backham will pull over to one side, will be given an automatic in-game, an in-game penalty that will slow him down automatically. You can see the frustration. He knows he's not going to be inside the top 6. We'll see as they come through here. So Siggy will come through Sorensen. Lerner, I would say everyone down to Riepveld, because 10 seconds is obviously quite a long time. It should be here. It is.
Well, it would encourage it. Yes, it is. He's pulling over to the right-hand side. Moritz Lerner obviously needs to try and take advantage of this now, because he's going to be right on the cusp of the top 6. So is this where Moritz Lerner needs to kick on now, Lewis? He needs to really start plug in for a top 6?
Yeah, I mean, Lerner's got to dig deep, not only for him, but for me as well. I did predict you as a race winner, Moritz Lerner, so let's make it a final. Come on, mate. Yeah, each their own. I get the feeling, though, that his tyres might be shot. Obviously, taking a bit of a whack and stuff, scrubbing them across the race surface. They do take a bit of a whack, those tyres. They do overheat quite significantly, and yes, it is only a short 8-lap race. It still affects you. He's going to be hoping for some fighting ahead, but Lasse Sorensen, he's been in sim racing for over 10 years. I don't get the feeling that Sorensen's the kind of guy that's going to fight this. He knows the position that he's in. He knows where he's at. He knows what he's fighting for. To go back into a final. He's not been in a final since round 4 at Spa.
No, not at all. And as they cross the line now, they're going to have 2 laps of racing still to go. We're going to be moving on to lap 7 of 8 as they now cross the line. Lasse Sorensen still chasing after Kevin Siggy. Moritz Lerner now dropping off the pace. Yet another 0.2 of a second being forced upon him. Tommy Usgaard, of course, getting closer to him too. So maybe an outside chance for him as well. But they need to get closer to the back of Sorensen's BMW. The Team Furia once again can celebrate a car going through to the final. Obviously having the likes of this man on song, Lasse Sorensen, obviously in for the Felipe Baptiste, who is of course who was obviously sitting out of this particular affair. This is the sole Furia car that has found its way into the semi-final, obviously losing out the likes of Jeff Giassi as well as Keiki Oliveira, not to mention Victor Veloso as well. So it's all on Sorensen if he wants to deliver the big results here for Furia, currently half a second away from Kevin Siggy in that P6 place. And I tell you what, with the weight of the world on your shoulders, Sorensen could be delivering the big points here for the Furia BMW team.
Yeah, I did see someone in our little chat there, in our Twitch chat, of course. I'm sure you're watching all over the place. But it was Jardier, of course, interviewee a week ago, now viewer, Yaroslav Honzik, saying, what happened to Yuri Toman? Great question for anyone who's just joined us here in semi-final 2. Was taken out involving in a crash where Mac Backham sent one down the inside. Mac Backham's received a penalty for it. Yuri Toman being spun around, of course, our championship leader. And what that means is Yuri Toman, our championship leader, is out. Second in the championship, Marcel Cinchik, is out. Then we've got Josh Rogers, out. Dáire McCormack, out. The highest placed driver left in the championship that's left in this round is Luke Bennett, who is presently 5th in the championship. This could be a very big round on a very, very good track for him.
Yeah, very important round indeed. Certainly with the likes of Toman currently in the position that he is. Tommy Usgaard now looking all over the back of Moritz Lerner, that this could be vital. You simply don't know what's going to happen up in the top 6 echelon. So Tommy Usgaard needs to get as many points as he can, making his way down through towards turn 1 now, chasing after that of Moritz Lerner in the Mouse Audi. There's Lasse Sorensen as well. They look to go in deep here in towards turn 1. The Porsche now just haunting that rear wing of Moritz Lerner now, getting a tighter line as well, heading through turn 1. Obviously turn 2 coming up next before they then hurtle through the next turn 3 corner. Very, very technical at this point on the track. You just see the Porsche seems to be handling that segment a lot better than what the Audi is right now. Moritz Lerner might still be suffering on that tyre compound as they now put the hammer down before venturing out of turn 4 very soon in towards turn 5 and 6. Big opportunity for Usgaard to maximise his points here in lap 8 of 8, Lewis.
Yeah, obviously still results are fairly provisional, but things are looking pretty dire for Tommy Usgaard, for Moritz Lerner, have both worked their way up from 10th and 11th on the grid to 7th and 8th for Mouse, though, whilst running in 7th position with Lerner. At least they do have Yuri Kazdorp presently leading the race, 7/10 clear of Marco Pajic. I mean, like I said before, he did post on Twitter the other day that he was looking to... clearly he figured something out. He was looking to move himself forward. And clearly, George, Yuri Kazdorp certainly has done that.
He certainly has. Tremendous job from Yuri Kazdorp, currently holding on to the advantage ahead of Marco Pajic in the Mercedes, who's currently sat in second. Mouse that have certainly had a very, very, should we say, fits and starts of a championship. Yuri Kazdorp's going to make his way through the final chicane at the NGK before then making his way through towards the Coca-Cola curve for the final time. And in the 6th time of asking, yes, you heard me right, the 6th time of asking, he's going to come across the line and he's going to hit or head into his first final here in ESL R1 and take a victory in semi-final 2. It's Yuri Kazdorp and Mouse. They have won this one. Marco Pajic in 2nd, Jakub Brzezinski in 3rd, Eamon Murphy 4th, Kevin Siggy in 5th, and Lasse Sorensen takes Furia, the sole Furia car, into the final here in round 6.
Mega. Absolutely mega. Again, a very impressive performance from Yuri Kazdorp. But again, let's not have that too overshadowed from that drive from Pajic, from Brzezinski as well. When the Merc, maybe this is not their drive. It doesn't really matter, clearly, because the BOP looks pretty solid to me when they're kind of up there, when they're kind of challenging. A big round and a big amount of drama as well in there as well. Goodness.
Yeah, plenty of drama, certainly to say the least. And obviously, it's a great chance now for Yuri Kazdorp to take advantage of it. Obviously, taking that victory is so key, and it can obviously propel them. But obviously, we'll take you through the highlights very shortly, folks. Absolutely incredible scene, certainly from Mouse. But Lewis, I mean, did it come out the way you expected?
Well, no, because my prediction was completely wrong. Let's take a look at highlights, though, from semi-final 2 and that race down towards the first corner. Little bits of drama in all of this, but nothing too major. It was Yuri Kazdorp hanging on to the race lead from Marco Pajic. Watch Jeffrey Rietveld here, just towards the back of shot, getting pinched a little bit by Mac Backham in T1. Might have actually been Isaac Price in there as well. That was where Jeffrey Rietveld went for a bit of a half spin, as it was indeed Isaac Price. Bits of contact as well between Yuri Toman and Mac Backham, and trust me, that would not be the last time that happened in this race. Heading through the Mercedes Arena section as they race their way down. Look at this from Backham. He was defending from Lasse Sorensen behind, completely misjudged as it was 3 wide down into that first corner. Yuri Toman then got pinched and spun around over the nose of Lasse Sorensen, and eventually Mac Backham will be given a slowdown penalty because of that. Battle though between Heroic, between Usgaard and between Moritz Lerner as the fights just outside what would be the top 6 continue. There is the confirmation of Mac Backham's penalty that dropped him outside of the top 6 and down the order, unfortunately, to not progress through into the finals. Out of the final corner, though, it was Yuri Kazdorp taking victory for the first time and moving his way through into his first final. A super performance for Mouse, and guess who we're joined by? Yes, of course, it's Yuri Kazdorp. Now, very quickly, how's that feel?
Yeah, pretty good, especially compared to like how this season's been going so far for me.
Now, you did post on Twitter, I have brought this up a couple of times, that you said that you hope to show the massive gains that you've made. Now, I think we can quite comfortably say you've shown that off now. Do these massive gains include a potential final victory as well? Have you found that much speed, do you feel?
I mean, we're going to have to see how it works out in the finals. There's some people that are really good now, setting lap times that are really, really strong, so it's not going to be easy, but I feel like I'm getting the hang of the format with the pressure on one lap in qualifying, and I've been improving quite a lot on that.
Is that the hardest bit of ESL R1? Is getting that qualifying right, or is it just the time management through the race? Like, what is the hardest bit?
Oh, no, it's by far qualifying, especially because we've got a staggered start. So sometimes you just have to wait like 100 seconds not doing anything, and you get set at the last corner, and you just immediately have to have full focus, immediately have to be like pinpoint perfect, and it's really easy, especially when you're nervous, to like miss one small thing or have like one thing not feel exactly like in practice. And with how close this grid is, it's immediately over if you make one mistake.
Now, you've got one of your teammates, Maximilian Benneker, in the final as well, obviously going through from semi-final 1. Is there any sort of discussions between you as to how to work this, or do you actually kind of almost treat this as not a team thing at all? You just do what you're doing as a driver and focus on you yourself?
I think they'll have to stay between the team.
No worries, no worries. Final kind of thoughts though. What do you think you can really? What would you be happy with from the final?
I don't like to be too results oriented. I'm happy if I hit the lap that I want to hit, and if I hit that lap in qualifying and then do a race where I manage my tires well without doing anything too bad, I'll be happy with that. And what it is in results should be around top 3.
Well, Yuri, thank you so much for joining us. Good luck in the final, and maybe we'll talk to you a bit later on.
Let's hope so. Thank you.
Yuri Kazdorp and the entire Mouse team as well. His first finals placement and finishing in pole position at that is definitely a huge accomplishment and achievement. But for the folks that are only just joining us, don't worry, we still have our finals race to be played just in a few moments' time. And if you're only just joining us, remember to type !VRS in the chat as well, and check out some of those sweet VRS wheels while you're there as well. Now, George, it is about time for me to pick apart the race results with you. I'm super excited for this one. Talk to me about how you felt the start of that race ended up panning out.
Well, I think going back to what we were saying about semi-final 1, I mean, this was probably more hectic here in semi-final 2, but a great getaway from Yuri Kastorp was obviously of the essence, and he took full advantage. Marco Pejic did give him a few headaches. Of course, Kastorp having to take a wider line through turn 1. We saw there, of course, Eamon Murphy scrapping it out. Kevin Siggy also trying to get himself into the mix as well. It was all very fraught, but very quickly, should I say, entangled, or certainly untangled themselves, but it all happened towards the back. Obviously, we saw the Porsche Commanders getting in the mix. Mac Backham obviously trying to find his way through the field, but here is another inside view from the car at the race start. Of course, it was a pretty blundersome start for Team Heroic. It wasn't easy for them, obviously having the likes of two great drivers, the likes of Tommy Usgaard obviously in the mix, not to mention the others that have come here to fight as well. Certainly wasn't ideal for them, and you could just see there a punt in the back, certainly for Yuri Toman. It just wasn't a great race for him either. So R8G losing a very key man as well, heading through towards the final.
Considering the fact that Yuri Toman at that moment in time was indeed in 6th position and then dropping down to 12th, only to ultimately finish up in 11th, you could see the frustration on his face as well. Now, talk to me about the results that we have here for the final standings.
Yeah, I mean, looking at this now, obviously Yuri Kastorp taking a great victory, and he'll feature in his very first final here this season. Marco Pejic, a brilliant launch as well, looking to try and turn his career around, or turning his season around, should we say, off the back of a wonderful final visit last time out, final 12th. He's going to look to improve that this time. Jakub Brzezinski, we heard Javi talk about him earlier on, showing great improvements to get into 3rd place. Eamon Murphy, a great performance again, following on from his quarterfinal victory. Now, once again, he has now improved that again, gone into a final. Kevin Siggy into a final as well. Lasse Sorensen, the Sol Furia car, in the final too. Moritz Lerner on the cusp of celebrating a final. He doesn't manage to get through. Tommy Usgaard, the heroic driver, fan favourite, unable to get there. Mac Backham, we lose him after that 10-second penalty as well. That was such a vital moment. Rierveld, of course, again struggling here in the semis. Yuri Toman, heartbreak after he got bumped into heading through turn 1 off the back of Mac Backham sending towards turn 1, and Mikael Gala just could not fire for Heroic either at all. So it looks like it's all on Thomas Tatler for Heroic heading through to the final as well.
Well, I think credit goes in way of Lasse Sorensen for sure. With the starting grid position of 12th to wrap things up ultimately in 6th position was definitely no easy feat. Was this a little bit of an expected result on your part?
Well, we saw him in Spa, and he looked incredibly quick then. I think he certainly delivered for Furia. He certainly did give something to look at, and he's not afraid of making the big moves. Very aggressive as well, and his racecraft is pretty solid too. He does get himself into incidents from time to time, but I think today he's proven that he's got the capability and the ability to fire at the top end. So, yeah, no, he's a deserved finalist, that's for sure.
Well, we have had an incredibly hectic round number 6, but it is worth noting as well that after this round, the drop score ruling will indeed kick in, giving a little bit of a lifeline to the drivers that weren't necessarily entirely happy with their result as well. But on that note, I think it's time we find out from the folks that have been tuning in at home as well. Let's check in with the predictions that we had from that semi-final number 2 and see if anybody managed to get a successful prediction of Yuri Kastorp here. Okay, what do you make of this?
Well, 4.55% managed to once again pick him up. But yeah, no, incredible. And I think, again, Kastorp proving that he has the ability to be here. Moritz Lerner, of course, not making it through. Neither does Tommy Usgaard. Guys at home, what are you doing? Marco Pejic, though, getting up into the top end, though. The Mercedes doing well. So a big W for the voters at home. He got close, just not quite good enough to take that victory. But Kastorp, while he's not the most popular vote, level with Yuri Toman on 4.55%, still nonetheless delivered. So congratulations to those of you who voted for him.
I think if anything though, Lewis will be glad that at least it's not a caster's curse, if anything at all. Let's check in with our match the outcome as well and see if we've been able to check off anything from this list. Thoughts, feelings, what are you hoping to see from our finals perhaps?
Well, it's going to be tough. I mean, obviously, no Toman. We've got no Usgaard. We've got no Lerner. It's all down to Job and Rogers, I suppose. I mean, I've got Rogers down to do donuts. He could do. Sebastian Job, I've got him to get pole. So if he gets pole here in this final, I will be a very happy bunny.
All right, well, interesting stuff, but joining us very, very shortly on the broadcast, we have the king of delusional confidence himself. I'm doing this because I don't want people to think I'm flaming. The king of delusional confidence, Crimsix himself, will be joining us just after this, so let's find out a little bit more about him.
You know, maybe you guys teach me some things, and then I give you guys the biggest weapon of all, which is delusional confidence. You know, you can't win if you don't think you're gonna win. Honestly, it can't get much worse. It truly can't get much worse.
Would you like
No, I need a turn, sir.
Would you like a gamepad or maybe a mouse?
Driving cars fast on track was my hobby. You know, Call of Duty paid pretty well. Not only did it pay well in salary, but I was very successful at it. I would say about 5 years ago, I started to realize like I have way more fun driving than I do playing Call of Duty. So yeah, that's where it all started.
Bonnerhouse and Ian Porter, the drivers that would no longer progress.
My method has always been just study, and just have the discipline to just keep going, like don't stop. I want to be able to actually compete for wins. So that's sort of my goal. Great, if I get like P6, dude, they're gonna be like losing their fucking minds. Like literally just P11, what, do you even get points for that?
Giassi, Ian Porter scoring his first points of the season. And
we'll take that point. We'll take that point, baby. Let's fucking go.
Well, Crimsix, aka Ian Porter, thank you for joining us here on the broadcast. Firstly, how's it going? How are you feeling to be here on screen?
Well, I'm doing all right. It's been an absolute roller coaster. A lot of work. I think I'm at the point where I'm slowly starting to understand it, and it's been a tough little 3 or 4 months, but you know, putting in the time, having fun, and yeah, I just did a track day weekend, and I think I won my like divisional class, you know, in real life, and then an incident happened. But hey, listen, I didn't spin in the actual virtual race, but I may have spun in the real thing, so it's all right. It's all right though.
And how did you find the transition from obviously doing sim racing to the IRL racing as well? Did you feel like sim racing helped you in any sort of capacity?
Well, yeah, I think, yeah. Let's just say that maybe in real life now I'm pushing the car a little bit more than I should. But initially I did the real thing first. But I mean, it's just, you know, fun track days. It's just everyone taking out their cars to the track. It's not actual race cars and stuff. So I actually did that first, and then that's how I got into sim racing. So I sort of did the opposite route, but.
Well, it was, I mean, off the back of the commencement of phase into sim racing, it's quite a statement for a team such as them to transition into sim racing for the very first time. Is this a statement of intent from their point? And what is the feeling in the camp around, you know, about this new territory that they're stepping into?
Well, it was, you know, everything was pretty much rushed. I think, I mean, I was sitting there on the plane going to Poland, you know, the furthest I've ever been in Europe. For Call of Duty, we'd always go to like the UK, went there like, not even exaggerating, like 15 times. Been to Paris like 10 times. But other than those two cities, I've never gone past Paris in terms of Europe. So it was a weird situation when I was, you know, on a last-minute flight to Poland, competing in a game that I had no practice in, no experience. I mean, I had 24 hours practice, and before that, I mean, I was your average turn 1 dive bomber in iRacing, you know, 1400 I rating, absolute animal. Also, absolute weapon on the track because pretty much no one was safe. No one was safe for me, you know, in those bottom tiers. But that was around 3 or 4 months ago. And I think the biggest thing that's, I would say I've improved, even though I'm sick and tired of hearing that, because I don't want to improve. I want to compete. And I would say that now I'm at the level where maybe people stop talking to me because I'm a threat. So,
I like it.
Probably a little bit more. Probably a little bit more. Practice.
I like it. It's a little bit of fighting talk as well. Now, you mentioned the topic of competing. When it comes to esports in general, are there any sort of similarities or things that you feel have really benefited you from your transition of Call of Duty to now sim racing?
Yeah. Well, hold on. I've been having to unmute. So hopefully if you guys ask me a question in the middle is I can't hear you. But yeah, I would say the biggest thing is the fun factor. Like, people will stop driving or stop practicing, or maybe they won't put in that extra time, that extra work when they're not having fun. And to me, sorry, Call of Duty, but I haven't had fun on your game for like 4 years, at least, minimum. So to me, I've always been putting in that work. I'm used to putting in that work when I'm not having fun. Like, just keep going no matter what. So I have that work ethic, and I'm talking like, you know, if I think I'm bad, if I think, you know, we're performing average, our team needs to get better, I need to get better, I'm putting in 10 to 12 hours a day minimum. And it's like every single waking moment is thought about, how can I improve, you know, my gameplay, my play. So in this case, how can I improve my driving? So it's like now all my YouTube videos are all racing recommended videos, whether it's sim racing, real life, doesn't matter. You know, if I'm not sim racing, I'll go take my GT3 RS, my Porsche out, and I'll go just drive it to the gym. You know, it's 10 minutes away. It doesn't matter to me. Like, I need to live that feeling of driving fast now. So legally, kind of.
I like that. Going off the back of that experience, obviously, that you've taken from, you know, obviously at the top level, you know, in the world of COD. I mean, how has that experience sort of, have you used that to the benefit of your teammates? How has that helped your team?
Sorry, repeat the first half of that question. Sorry, I had you guys muted.
Well, with just quickly, just with regards to your experience with the top level of COD, how has that helped your teammates in terms of helping the team develop in this very big championship?
Well, you know, the team, we had a rough first 2 rounds, just from that lack of, like, you know, everything getting thrown together last minute. So I mean, team driving wise, it's been very difficult, especially because, you know, I'm in North America, and I'm on a vampire sleep schedule. So I mean, like, they got jobs, they got, you know, school. Like Ulyss, I think he's 17, you know, more mature than me. I'm 29. So yeah, but anyways, back on topic, it's been difficult for me because I'm used to, you know, my teammates in pro Call of Duty, no one has a job, no one has school, no one has friends, no one even has a life. Okay, I had one teammate that took 49 steps a day for a month, and pretty much it's just that window of, like, when to be able to practice with your teammates is a lot different in sim racing because of the whole fact that right now it's still a hobby. It's not a profession. You can't really support yourself, you know, as, hey, this is my full-time job. This is what I do for a living. I live comfortably. And that is what I realized the whole situation sim racing is in. And I'm like, I know how to change that. I want to change it. I think that all the drivers, everyone who does this, like, deserves to have that opportunity. So, and you know, ESL R1 it's in the right direction. So, massive prize pool.
Awesome.
That's what
Lovely stuff.
at the end of the day pays the bills.
Well, I think what better way than to kind of introduce your team and to hear from them themselves. Let's find out a little bit more about the side of FaZe Clan.
Definitely. Yeah, I me too.
I guess. Probably me.
Yeah, I guess.
Dude, if you guys do well, no one's gonna. People are gonna be like,
Crimsix and
oh,
his team
great,
did well.
great. If I get like P6, dude, they're gonna be like losing their fucking minds, dude. They're gonna be like, no way. 4 months practice P6, like.
Probably him, because he doesn't know the rules, because he isn't too long into the racing scene, you know.
See, no, wait, do you get penalty points for trash talking?
I guess you might.
Dude, because if I beat anybody, bro, they're going to, I'm verbally going to massacre them.
You could be maybe me, but I'm not too sure.
I was thinking maybe me, you know? Be like, damn, this seat's too narrow. Because I'm too fat, you know?
If it wasn't narrow,
that excuse is already in my head, dude.
Oh, definitely me.
Yeah, it's definitely him.
Oh yeah, he got excited. He's like, ooh, telemetry now.
Yeah. Love it. To become, I mean...
Oh, well,
he's
to become, I'm invalid.
Yeah.
Invalid, I've already...
Hard questions. It's difficult to say. I mean, there's not much pace between us. And
yeah, you guys are all in like the same.
Yeah, pretty much.
Basically, we have the same pace, so...
Yeah,
yeah, but that was online, though. Now we're on LAN.
Well, yeah.
And then we're back to online. So...
I gotta say, I'm absolutely loving the team chemistry that you guys show on camera, and I don't doubt for a split second it'll be that off camera as well. Now, talking a little bit more about your career, really quickly, I want you to tell me, how did that transition from Call of Duty to sim racing actually happen? What were the steps to have those initial discussions of, I want to move away from COD to sim racing?
Well, this is a true story. So I knew there was an issue. I knew something was wrong when during the COVID couple years, the first year was online. Second year was in like a local, pretty much like tournament arena, but it was local to me. So it was like around like a 45-minute drive there. And I legitimately had more fun driving my Porsche there than I did competing in the tournaments. And that year, we didn't win any, but we did do fairly well. So I knew, I was just sitting there thinking in the back of my head, like, this is not good, man. This is not good, because I've always firmly believed that in order to perform well, you have to enjoy what you're doing. So I knew it was a huge issue right when I realized, hey, like you're having more fun driving to the actual tournaments than you are competing in them. And it's like, I'm not getting paid to drive there. Nothing is incentivizing me to even take the Porsche over my daily driver, my Jeep. So it was an interesting situation, but I had to look at it like, hey, maybe I shouldn't be doing this. Maybe I shouldn't be playing COD. Maybe I should, look into other avenues. So, and sim racing was one of them. And ideally, hopefully, maybe praying to God that I can actually end up doing the real thing one day. So that's my end goal. That's why I'm so committed right now.
Well, it's certainly admirable, to say the least. Now, Crimsix, you're a little bit of a memer. I know you enjoy a good time, you enjoy a good laugh as well. So would you like to help us deciding our Twitter caption competition winner?
Ooh, well...
The answer is yes. You want to say yes?
Yes, I'll help. But I mean, like, depends on who it is. And it depends on the approval, because this Bennett guy, this Siggy guy, did he move on? What do you finish at?
He did. He did the top 6 to the final.
Oh, Kevin. Oh, I already got a couple cooked up, but half of the drivers I can't even read their names. So.
Well, you know what, Crimsix? I'm going to let you think on it. Go ahead and type !social in the chat. Check out the tweet for yourself and some of the replies we have on there as well. Once again, another shout out to our sponsors VRS as well. If you want to check out some of their wheels for yourselves, go ahead and type !VRS in the chat as well. I'm super excited to get things started with our final. But before we do that, Crimsix, I'm going to bid you adieu, farewell, and thank you for joining us.
I can't hear you guys now. Bye.
I love it. Honestly, the guy brings good vibes to the broadcast. I'm here for it. Now, George, our final drivers, take me through them.
Yeah, well, we got a very, very fascinating final ahead of us, folks. Now, the big question is, can Luke Bennett do exactly what he did in round 3? Of course, he'll head into this one, obviously representing Team Red Lion, but he'll also be joined by Beneke, Siggy, Jovski, Baldwin, Pajic, Brzezinski, Murphy, Kasdorp, Sorensen, Tattler, and Job. Many big stories here. Sebastian Job in his first final, in his very first race as well, or his very first round here in ESL R1. Very exciting time, but Bennett's not alone. Red Lion have also got Kevin Siggy in the mix. Don't count out Yuri Kasdorp. And what about Jakub Brzezinski for Williams? Can he do what Dáire McCormack could not? We'll have to find out.
Well, predictions are now open for all of the folks joining us in the chat as well. Go ahead, click that link on the straw poll and let us know who you think is going to finish in pole position here today for round number 6, Nürburgring Finals. George, it's time for us to bring in Lewis, and I want both of your predictions.
Hello. As much as Crimsix was bringing in the good vibes, I'm bringing in the bad ones. Sorry. Who are we apparently cursing today? I'm going with Luke Bennett. There is so many drivers on there. I'm like, they could win, they could win, they could win. Luke Bennett's just so good at the Nürburgring, though.
Incredible.
Okay. I knew he was going to go for Luke Bennett. Boom.
This isn't fair. In future, I want to go first. But yeah, I'm going to throw in... do you know what? Max Beneke. I'm going with him.
Okay, all right. Well, guys, I'm going to let you go ahead, go through the qualifying. See you soon.
Bye. Well, there we go. Okay, right, now we can go. Now we can really go for it. I don't know. It is a tough one. Genuinely, I'm looking at it being like, Luke Bennett can win. James Baldwin can win. I mean, to be fair, it feels disrespectful to Thomas Tattler, but you know, maybe not heroic as strong. Sebastian Job, Max Beneke, Hani Jovski. They're all just, there's so many names on it. Kevin Siggy, maybe this is going to be the first one that he picks up. But then Pajic and Brzezinski, they've been sitting there in those Mercs. I seriously really don't know.
Well, I tell you what, it's a mystery, isn't it? But here's the man who could yet turn things around. Max Beneke. Of course, he's my pick. I tell you what, there's one man you want in a final, it's this guy. I tell you what, he's going to send us now down through towards turn 1 on the opening lap of this final qualifying session. 8 minutes 30 till race time, folks, and it's all on this moment indeed. Could it be the case that Bennett, I mean, if Bennett does the double, he effectively equals the record set by Dáire McCormack now.
But they're not back to back, so it's not as tasty.
No.
But you know,
not as impressive.
The thing is that he's 5th in the championship. The top 4 are no longer in this competition. They've already been knocked out, so this is a big moment for Bennett to potentially do something. Again, at times we're looking for a 52. Slowdown. There's a slowdown for Beneke. I just heard that he went too wide going out of the Mercedes Arena section, and there was a slowdown for Maximilian Beneke. That has cost him around 1.5 seconds, basically, in that first sector. So there is definitely not going to be a 52-second lap time from him. That's not a curse, by the way.
I'm locking Dane Baird. Incredible. This is outrageous. But Max Beneke not getting the best of starts at all. Obviously now that slowdown is going to be critical in this lap. One thing I do want to say about Luke Bennett is technically it will be impressive. He'll be the first driver to go back-to-back sequentially at the same circuit. You know, at the end of the day, there is still an opportunity to impress here for Luke Bennett. Of course, we still haven't seen Dáire McCormack do that, should we say. So let's wait and see as now Beneke makes his way through this next right. And he'll then tee up a move heading down this next straight. And as you can see, the confirmation, Maximilian Beneke received 4-speed limit, 5 seconds at 60 kilometers per hour due to a corner cut. Brutality, Lewis McGlade.
Yeah, it's cost him around 2 seconds actually on the race circuit. And just to clarify, for anyone who's not joined us with the qualifying, how it basically works is if you exceed track limits, if you go too far past them, He's got another one. Nice one. He had to just throw it through the final chicane. Your lap is never invalidated. It is never an illegal lap here on Reg, or at least in the ESL R1. But you will get slowdown penalties on the lap. I.e., so if you get a slowdown penalty and someone else gets a slowdown, you can still fight for lap time. There is still positions up for grabs. But realistically, that ain't going to do much. A 58.951, slowest lap time we've seen for a while.
Yeah, but Yoski comes across the line and he takes P1 with a 53.102. Not the fastest we've seen today, as now James Baldwin now heads up towards the line. Now, can he bring out the same performance we saw earlier on, Lewis?
Yeah, let's see what Baldwin can do across the line. It is a 52.9, just about by 2,000 a second into the 52s. Great lap time there from Baldwin. Next across the line will be his teammate in Marco Pajic. And what can he do?
Well, I tell you what, we did not see a 52 in our semi-final too, but Pajic delivering here in the final here. I tell you what a performance. You just see the smile, but here comes Luke Bennett, and he loves a 52 as well.
Yeah, see if he can do one as he comes across the line. He'll try and get there, but he doesn't quite get into the 52s. At the moment, it's a 1-2 for the Mercedes team. Pajic ahead of Baldwin would not have called that one before the laps were turned. Here comes Sebastian Job on debut.
Yeah, and I tell you what, he's celebrating already as he comes across the line. A 152.984 sends him to the top on debut here in the final at Nürburgring. What a way to arrive here on Rennsport. What a way to arrive at ESL R1.
Thomas Tattler, final corners ticked off for him. What can he do across the line? Middle sector's a bit average. Unfortunately, average in this, you're talking about a 10th off, right? But average in this is not good enough. He's 1/10 off, but he's 5 positions down. Here comes Siggy, who's a little slower in the middle sector.
Yeah, Kevin Siggy up towards the line himself, P7. I tell you what, not the best of laps for Kevin Siggy, and he knows it as well. A ride smile, but he'll be back.
Speaking of slow middle sectors, this is not a good one from Yuri Kasdorp. Very average. After that semi-final victory, he'll cross the line, and I'm absolutely sure it'll be 8th. Certainly will do. Down there with his mouse teammate, just ahead of Beneka. I say just ahead, it's 5 seconds ahead, but let's be honest, that doesn't really tell the full story. Here comes Murphy.
Yeah, Murphy certainly showing some great pace here at the Nürburgring, obviously coming through the quarterfinal semis and also the final, but 9th place is all he can achieve, just over 3.5 tenths of a second for the Irishman. But Jakub Brzezinski, the Salt Williams now, he's up next.
Yeah, first and second sector though, down a 10th apiece. It could be good enough to challenge 7th, 8th, that kind of margin. Certainly not for pole. It is going to be 8th position, a little bit down on Kevin Siggy. Here comes Lasse Sorensen, who's lost out in the first and second. I think this is only going to be enough for 11th, to be honest.
Yeah, real struggle here for Lasse Sorensen, the Sol Furia car here in the final. P11 for Lasse Sorensen ahead of Max Beneka, who obviously got the slowdown. But my prediction, when we were doing the predictions earlier on, pole position for Sebastian Job. I'm feeling really positive about this round now, Lewis.
I think I put him down for doing donuts, so potentially we could both win out here. We'll take a look for our final grid, of course powered by our partners in VRS. Maximilian Beneka 6 seconds off of the pole time after a double slowdown penalty. Will start from 12th. Lasse Sorensen on the same row as him, back on row number 6. Then Eamon Murphy and Yuri Kasdorp, semi-final winner, will have to start from 9th position. Jakub Brzezinski and Kevin Siggy just outside the top 6. Erhan Jovski on the 3rd row of the grid alongside Thomas Tattler. And then the rest of them are within a 10th of a second. Luke Bennett, James Baldwin, the first of the Mercedes duo, Pajic on the front row of the grid, and Sebastian Job on debut will start from pole position here at the Nürburgring. A sensational outing for the G2 Esports driver. I mean, what a driver he is. He's pretty quick.
He could be coming off the back of one of his best weeks yet, couldn't he? I mean, coming off the back of the UK version of the Porsche Carrera Cup, then all of a sudden now lighting things up here in the final here as well. But incredible scenes. I mean, where can he take it from here, Lewis?
Well, who knows? Maybe to a victory, maybe to something special. Maybe he's going to do another couple of rounds. Maybe we'll see him in Munich as well. You've also had some of your votes. If you've not done yet, of course, you can still do so on the straw poll. It should be linked in chat, so you can let us know who you think is going to win. James Baldwin and Sebastian Job, and Yuri Kasdorp probably has a bit of a tall order from there. That is not a joke about his height. He's just a bit further down the grid. Sebastian Job and James Baldwin, though, of course, starting up the order. Job from pole position, Baldwin from 3rd, Luke Bennett of course, looking for a repeat victory here at the Nürburgring. Maximilian Benneker, Marco Pejic and Lasse Sorensen all joint on 9%, and then Timus Tattler on 4.5%. No one thinks Jujovski, Kasdorp, Murphy or Siggy can take victory. Maybe they can prove you and us in the comedy booth completely wrong. So who knows? Of course, votes are open. Still keep getting them in. Let's see what's happening.
Yeah, absolutely. Keep on flurrying those votes in, folks. Obviously, we're only moments away now from race time here for the final race here at the Nürburgring, round 6, as we get close to Munich. And here we see the cars making their way around the circuit. Obviously, Kevin Siggy, not the best performance we have seen from the young man. Obviously, I did allude to the fact that he did struggle prior coming to this round. Of course, Lewis, it's been a very difficult journey, I think, for Kevin Siggy. Certainly, he hasn't performed necessarily the best out of his Team Redline teammates. It's been very much an up and down season, but he can still harness the best of it here. He's still too talented to be where he is, I think.
Yeah, I mean, the important thing for him is that he is still well in position for moving on to Munich, to moving on to the Rennsport, of course, the Rennsport Summit, the spring major. That's what they're all really focused on at the moment. If you aren't challenging for those top kind of spots, and obviously Teams Championship as well, which will end after round 8 of the championship. There might be a couple of things as well. Just to clarify what we're looking for here as well. We're looking for the top 24 in points. There are drop scores as well. But anyone wondering about the possibility of Sebastian Job, I don't know if he's planning on doing the next couple of rounds, but the potential of him making his way to that final in Munich, is it possible? And the answer is absolutely yes. At the moment, 24th position is being held by Ulas Yildirim, who's on 53 points. You get 60 points for a victory. Now, maybe he doesn't win this. He still gets 55. He's still involved in the mix, or 50. He still gets somewhere in with a decent amount of points that will get him involved in that top lot. It is still absolutely possible to see Sebastian Job making his way through into that final.
And what a way to do it. One round in as well. First race here, or certainly first round here in ESL R1. What a way to start your run here in ESL by taking a victory here, no less. No doubt he'll have that firmly on his mind, get himself solidified in the top 24. Obviously, Ulas Yildirim would be looking with bated breath, hoping that he doesn't achieve that, but there's plenty of other names there to be wary of as we make our way through towards the back end of this run up through the spring season. But nevertheless, he's got some feisty contenders. But over to you, Lewis.
Here we go. Yeah, certainly so on the race start. Sebastian Job jumped the start. Oh my goodness me. We can tick that one off. He ain't going to be winning. He'll be leading them down towards the first corner, but Sebastian Job, with a jump start, will surely hand it to Pejic and to Baldwin, who battle it out for what is second position at the moment down into the first corner. They'll race their way through the Mercedes Arena section. It could become a Mercedes 1-2 in this race. What just happened? George Morgan, I can't believe what I've just seen.
I don't know what I've just seen, Lewis McGlade, but Sebastian Job literally jumping the start off the line. I tell you what, alluding back to what we saw from Porsche Coanda earlier on tonight, but nevertheless now we'll have to wait for the stewards' confirmation as to what they're deciding to do. We got battles further back. Thomas Tattler as well battling with Kevin Siggy as they now make their way through turn 6 as well. There you see the Williams further back. Jakub Brzezinski fighting it out with Lasse Sorensen as well. They peel off together. The BMW Furia car moves up now into P9. An excellent start. Immediately goes defensive. Eamon Murphy ran the outside as well. Into the mouse and Maximilian Benneker now as they whip through turn 7. Side-by-side gravel trap. Certainly for Eamon Murphy, and he has to concede to that P11 place.
Yeah, a bit of a hip check from the rear end of that Audi R8 on Eamon Murphy. I don't think the Irishman will be particularly pleased about what he's just seen. Jakub Brzezinski more focused on the defence of Maximilian Benneker. He'll be trying to work his way forward. Mouse, whilst they've looked good today, 8th and 11th, certainly not what they were expecting from this final at the moment, but there is still plenty of time for them to work their way up the order. They potentially will gain one when Sebastian Job, if Sebastian Job comes in for a drive-through, but I'm sure that's a slam dunk. Let's see if Benneker can make a move. He gets to the outside. There is the confirmation of that. The 22 Sebastian Job gets a drive-through penalty. No one is shocked by it. Meanwhile, Max Benneker is going to lose a position here because Eamon Murphy's got the up and under coming into the final corner. We just saw Sebastian Job into the pit lane.
Yep, we certainly did. Eamon Murphy taking the advantage, heading out of the chicane through the Coca-Cola curve, but Benneker's far from done here. Side by side they remain. Pejic now leads this race with Baldwin in behind. A dream start to this final for Mercedes, as now Benneker, though, looks to up his chances of a positive result. Moves up now into P10 now, with Seb Job now down into 12th. Eamon Murphy concedes to Benneker now, who now chases after Jakub Brzezinski. The Audi's got to get going. Eamon Murphy, not the best of starts, but he's He's in another final. He'll take the positives, I'm sure.
Yeah, let's do a little bit of a focus though on where we are in this race. One lap down, it is a Mercedes AMG team Petronas Esports 1-2, Page and Baldwin first and second. Baldwin will obviously do the big defence on Bennett. I mean, those two have fought already this evening in the semi-final one a bit earlier on, and Bennett came out on top of that one, but that was because he had track position. Baldwin was unable to find his way past. Does Bennett have anything to throw the way of Baldwin, of world's fastest gamer, of a driver that's won Driver of the Year, I think in 3-4 different awards last year? Did James Baldwin, picking up a handful of championships, showing out strong in the Le Mans Virtual Series, of course, anything over on ACC, and now here on Rennsport as well in ESL R1. It is a tall order for Bennett to make his way through and look for back-to-back victories at the Nürburgring in ESL R1, but Yuri Kasdorp was working his way forward as he, or rather defending rather, from Lasse Sorensen.
Yeah, Lasse Sorensen looking very racy, and behind that of Kasdorp currently holds on to 7th place, the Audi, and a convincing pressure here from the BMW that's basically pushing him around the track. Look at it, nose to tail between the pair, and now opening up the door, says Sorensen, as they peel through this next chicane. Certainly at this moment though, it is still Kasdorp leading the way, but now as we see them now work their way through the Coca-Cola curve, Kasdorp doing enough, but just look, it's almost a carbon copy of what we saw Sorensen do in our semi-final. Peels out through now, heads down this long straight. He'll need a nice run down through towards turn 1. We'll want to take every advantage he can. I tell you what, he might yet open up the door as they head down now towards turn 1. He certainly will do. We're like side by side, switches to the outside, in fact, but that's opened the door here for the Williams. Cooper, well, certainly Jakub Brzezinski now looking to make the big launch, does so, but now conceding the place and enter the fight, Maximilian Benneker.
Super wise from Benneker, saw the door open and bam, went for it. Brzezinski's going to drop down the position to 10th. Benneker was just wide awake at that point, saw what was happening ahead of him, read it brilliantly, and moves his way up into 9th position. I know it's not the position he'd want to be fighting for in this race, but it's just, again, such heads-up driving to be able to do it. This is inside the top 6. Thomas Tadler behind Kevin Siggy, only 2/10 behind. Siggy, though, almost a second off the rear end of a driver he's fought many times for the R32 GT Pro Championship. Kevin Siggy behind Erhan Yovsky, a second arrears of him. Then Bennett, then Baldwin and Payich, separated by less than half a second between each of those four. Realistically, it is a very tight grouping, 1st through 4th. Are those going to be the 4 that are going to do battle here for victory in round 6 of ESL R1?
Could be seeing it, that's for sure. Thomas Tadler, very impressive run so far, currently behind Kevin Siggy, 6th place, within 4.5 tenths as well, and gaining on the Team Red Line BMW in front of him here. Obviously going back to James Baldwin's achievements prior, of course, a British GT race winner, of course, capturing that with Jenson Button's Team Rocket Motorsport. Then, not to mention, last year competing in the 24 Hours of Spa for Garage 59 McLaren, and now here in the ESL R1 series as well, still continuing his sharpened rise in the world of esports. Here is, of course, the race start. Take us through it, Lewis.
Yeah, I mean, I say I don't fully know how the race starts work on Rennsport, but very clearly, I get the feeling that he was starting on, rather than on the clutch, because don't really, again, GT3 stuff, they generally have an automatic clutch, might have been starting on the brake pedal and the throttle, potentially gave it a little bit too much beans, because you saw the front tyres, the front wheels weren't moving, i.e. they were locked, the rear-wheel drive cars, all of them, and it gives me the vibe that you were on the brakes there, and it was the rears was obviously just pushing them through, maybe too much throttle to do so, the automatic clutch. Either way, it's happened now. Max Benneker is trying to get past Lasse Sorensen, and will do so on the exit of the Mercedes Arena section. So from 9th to 8th, Benneker goes. Next one up is his teammate, and we'll see if Mouse might battle it out for 7th between the pair of them. That's if Benneker can get there.
Well, I tell you what a rise Benneker's had from the back of the grid. Remember, he was slapped with those 2 slowdowns in qualifying that cemented his place right at the back of the field. He's gained all the way up now to P8. He's making all sorts of progress, and now he's looking to continue that charge right now, chasing after Yuri Kasdorp. There's Erhan Yovsky, currently within 3/10 as well, chasing after Luke Bennett in 3rd. Of course, a race winner already tonight. Yovsky, though, with a very, very good upward curve performance here for R8G. Obviously, they're commanding him to do the business with the absence of Chinchik, Risto Capit, not to mention that of Yuri Toman, who, of course, had his own heartbreak in his semi-final in our previous race. As they head through this next straight yet again, they've got a very, very fast section ahead of them. Of course, being led now by Marco Payich, a Mercedes double up at the front end. Now, this is the big question I want to ask you here, Lewis. Now, do Baldwin and Payich fight, or do Mercedes do what counts for them right now? Do they hold on to those 2 spots?
I don't think they can fight. I do. If they fight, Bennett is there. I mean, for me and my prediction, yeah, absolutely go for it, lads, fight. But realistically speaking, I just don't think they can fight. They're in a really good position here at the moment in the race. They're looking for their first round win in ESL R1. They're only 8th in the team's championship. They're looking to hoover up some more points, and it's about how much risk does Bennett do? Does Yujovski do? Because of course, Yujovski being the lone driver in this race for R8G, does he take some risk to try and get past Bennett? Because in the team's championship, remember, first in the championship is coming into this round was R8G on 497 points. Only about 40 or so back was Team Redline, and at the moment, based on where Bennett and Siggy are, I get the feeling that gap, I don't think it's going to be overhauled based on some of the other point scores and stuff through this round, but they're going to be really close now at Team Redline. I'd almost guess there might actually be a switch round between the pair of them, and Redline might actually leave the Nürburgring as the points do. It would be super tight between Redline and R8G, though, that is for sure.
Yeah, well, certainly James Baldwin and Marco Pejic making this their 3rd final appearance this season. Of course, Pejic, last time out, finishing in 12th place in our last final at Hockenheimring. For James Baldwin, he finished 3rd in that classification, and now he's going to promote himself up to 2nd on this occasion here at the Nürburgring as well. But nevertheless, they'll be pleased with certainly the way things are being carried out right now. Obviously, this will throw them higher up in terms of the team's championship. Obviously, R8G currently steamrolling that affair with Team Redline as well. Both of those teams have certainly been spearheading this competition, but Mercedes with the, should we say, the turn of foot that they no doubt needed after a very difficult start to this championship. They've got 2 other drivers, capable drivers as well, in Graham Carroll and Bono House, that we're yet to see, of course, as part of this final fray, but still nonetheless to have Pejic and Baldwin up there fighting for the big points, it certainly will help them a lot. Luke Bennett as well in behind them, obviously looking to chase his 2nd win here at the Nürburgring in a final contest. Obviously further back then, Erhan Yujovski, who's got Kevin Siggy, but dropping back to his 2nd now as they peel through across the line to commence lap 6 of 8. Thomas Tatler as well, an impressive performance for him, despite the absence of his fellow drivers as well, like Tommy Usgaard, for example, who you would have expected to be at the top end, not to mention Mikael Gala as well. This is still a brilliant display from Heroic, despite losing 2 very key drivers here, Lewis.
Yeah, I mean, I'm still just at a loss for words for what happened to Sebastian Job earlier on. I'm kind of like trying to work out what was going on. Obviously, so most drivers do start this on the clutch, so not 100% sure as to whether it was, again, whether he had the lock fronts. Either way, it's completely irrelevant. He did jump the start, which is a big shame. But it's a big learning curve for Sebastian Job, and if he does come back for rounds in future, I suspect he will actually be challenging for even more in the future. G2 Esports moving from strength to strength. On board with Thomas Tatler, who you were saying absolutely is having a fantastic race at the moment. Heroic have been moving from strength to strength. I mean, a lot of teams do. This is the ebb and flow of ESL R1, is that you are just going to have rounds where you're going to be hot, and you're going to have rounds where you're going to not. You know, that is how this competition is. It is so immensely strong. You've seen the qualifying, and hearing from Yuri Kazdorp how important qualifying is in this. If you miss your personal best lap by 1/10 of a second, it's not, you're not dropped down 1 or 2 positions, you're dropped down generally like 5 or 6. You're starting in that danger zone, you're starting in that mid-pack, and it is really hard to pass at the moment in this championship, especially when you're in the train. The slipstream, obviously the slipstream you're getting of the car ahead, they're getting from the car ahead, they're getting from the car ahead, and especially when it's in a train like this. Baldwin's not going to fight Pejic, which means Bennett can't actually do anything with his slipstream because he's not seeing an opportunity ahead of him. You get what I mean? So it's a very frustrating scenario to be in for quite a few of these drivers in these trains.
Yeah, well, Yujovski seems to be getting closer as well in behind Luke Bennett. Of course, we're just watching him now in our screens as well. You can see him in the bottom left-hand corner in his driver camera on lap 7 of 8, folks. Penultimate lap now here at the Nürburgring. Pejic still with the advantage, now stretching out to over 0.8 of a second with Luke Bennett in behind him as well. A little wide there from Bennett. That will certainly play into the hands of Yujovski if he can dial this in here. Of course, 3rd place is better than 4th, and Yujovski would like the points as well as they head through the Mercedes Arena curve, and I'm sure he'll have that on his mind as well. Effectively, we've got 2 laps left here in this race, and the gap between Siggy and Yujovski, well, that's been drawn out as well to 1.4 seconds. So it's looking good for Yujovski right now, should he want to gain on Luke Bennett. And Bennett right now is going to have his best defensive helmet on, I think, because that Audi is looking very prominent, Lewis.
Yeah, Yujovski desperately wants a podium here. He's been pretty hungry for it. Of course, it's been a very up and down season for the Macedonian. Has been into 3 of the finals. This is his 4th appearance in a final. Actually, he's had a pretty good record in ESL R1. Obviously, we know RHG have been really, really strong. Remember getting involved in that crash, though, in the final back in Spa in that very first round of the championship. He's yet to have a podium in a final. This could absolutely be the day, but he's got to go toe-to-toe with arguably pound for pound the best driver around the Nürburgring Grand Prix circuit on ESL R1. Very hard to tell, obviously, from just the 6 races that we've seen him in, but let's be honest, Bennett's a force to be reckoned with. He's looking to keep up his 100% podium record at this circuit, is Bennett, and he's got just a lap to hang on from the Macedonian behind. I get the feeling his chances of victory are slipping away, especially with that 8/10 margin between Baldwin and Pajic.
Yeah, I think they could be as well. I think you're absolutely spot on. Just saw a little twinkle of the lights there from Erhan Yuyovski. Perhaps might be growing impatient here, and obviously if he wants to make a move, Yuyovski, now's the time. Obviously we're here now on lap 8 of 8, the final lap here at the Nürburgring in the final. Still, it's a Mercedes 1 and 2, and there is what Luke Bennett can see right behind him here, and a little look down the inside as well from Erhan Yuyovski, who I think now his patience is running rather thin, but the tail just getting out from under him here, and you can tell that he is trying to push to gain on this BMW in 3rd place. I don't think the top 3 is sorted yet here, Lewis. Yuyovski starting to mount the charge and mount a little bit of pressure here on Luke Bennett.
Yeah, the question is, though, is he pushing potentially a little bit too hard at the moment? You don't want to be overheating those rears, although, to be fair, final lap of the race, you've only got, from this point, maybe 3.5 kilometres left to go. Don't leave anything on the table. The last thing you want to do is leave this race having thought, what if I'd have attacked here? What if I'd have done this? What if I'd have done that? And Yuyovski is leaving absolutely nothing on the table. We come down to the hairpin. He's not close enough to do here, but surely NGK does have a look, though.
He did have a look. I tell you what, very as well, sort of testing the latency of the brakes as well to a certain degree, as well as they power out of the hairpin section they've just arrived at. They've got turns 8 and 9 to come next. It's very fast, very attractive section here at the Nürburgring, and Erhan Yuyovski obviously must have intentions on his mind, to say the least. They'll whip through turn 10 now as well at Michelin Curve, with Bit Curve coming up after this one, and then it commences the charge through the Bogan section before they hit the NGK chicane. Can Yuyovski dial in here on Luke Bennett, get a charge of slipstream, descend it up through towards that chicane section, and effectively challenge for that P3 on track? He has got 1.3 seconds there on Kevin Siggy behind. Not enough, but Lewis McGlade, what a performance up at the sharp end.
Yeah, certainly so. I mean, not too many would have predicted this as he comes out of the final corner. Pajic is a quality driver, and he's proving it here, putting a fantastic lap in qualifying, and Marco Pajic is going to win on home soil. It's Mercedes 1 and 2 as ESL R1 round 6 finishes up here. Pajic ahead of Baldwin in a fantastic performance for the team. What a drive. Pajic had to do it all in qualifying, and certainly did so. And when it came to the race, well, he had his teammate to assist. Drama ahead of him, and he took top honours. Marco Pajic on top. I just don't think anyone would have predicted that. I certainly wouldn't have. My goodness.
Well, after the start of the season Mercedes had, absolutely unbelievable. We do have highlights ready, so I'm going to pass it your way, Lewis McGlade.
Yeah, certainly so. We'll take a look, and before the lights had even finished, it was already drama. An issue for Sebastian Job on the start, pulling away before the lights had already gone out. It was a slow start for him anyway, but unfortunately a drive-through penalty would drop him back to the rear of the field. The battling down into that first complex of corners saw plenty of side-by-side, including this, looking to the outside, one of the G2 Esports drivers of Eamon Murphy getting pushed out wide, just a touch from Maximilian Benneker, as then Brzezinski was trying to fend off Benneker himself. There was bits of contact going through the final corner, or the final complex of corners, as Sebastian Job for G2 Esports would come into the pit lane, serve a drive-through penalty for that false start. He was giving it everything on the way into pit lane. Eamon Murphy into that first corner, trying to defend from Maximilian Benneker, but the mouse driver just getting out on top. Yuri Kazdor was having to defend from Lasse Sorensen. Meanwhile, a big send from the background of Jakub Brzezinski into the first corner. Saw the Williams Esports car getting into the side of the Furia machine. Speaking of Furia and speaking of battling, Max Benneker had come out of nowhere to try and attack for what was then 8th position. Managed to sneak his way around the outside of the Mercedes arena section. Looking backwards from Luke Bennett as Erhan Yuyovski was trying to fight for the podium. Wasn't able to do so, and they all came short of this man here, Marko Pejic, across the line in a fantastic drive. Again, for Mercedes, we were catching up with Baldwin last round, weren't we? And he was saying that clearly, Williams and Dáire McCormack particularly have figured something out on the car. I get the feeling Mercedes have figured it out as well, because they looked really, really strong here. A 1-2 for them.
He was very factual, I think, in the certainly on the basis that they hadn't necessarily performed to the best that they could have, and I think they said that they were desperately lacking pace from somewhere, and it takes a strong driver to admit that, obviously in that situation, but they've come back in the best possible way to take a 1-2 for Mercedes. Without a shadow of a doubt, the team bosses there are going to be absolutely thrilled with this one. It gives them the best platform now going forward. Obviously, in the context of the team's championship, it's huge for Mercedes. What a round at the Nürburgring. Obviously, still plenty ahead, that's for sure. More rounds to come, but no better time, Lewis, than to get a major result here at this point of the championship.
But how do you kind of feel like, do you think that gives an extra little boost to Graham Carroll, who obviously went out in the quarterfinals and has had a few issues the last couple of rounds? Bonnerhouse as well, missing out by one position from getting into the final, obviously being beaten out by Erhan Nijovski in semi-final one. Do you think it gives them a little bit of a boost, seeing your teammates not only getting into the final, not only winning, but 1-2ing that final as well? Do you think it gives them a little bit of a kick?
I think so, of course it does. I think genuinely, I think if you're Graham Carroll and you're Bono House, you're watching that and you're saying, well, if they can do it, then why can't we? And naturally, without any shadow of a doubt, I'm sure James Baldwin, given the team player that he absolutely is, and not to mention Marko Pejic as well, they do work as a unit to the Mercedes team. They will obviously be working together to try and delve into what Bono House is doing, and also Graham Carroll, and see if they can deliver the best performance possible for their teammates as well. But nevertheless, what a performance, and I'm sure we'll have more to come as well.
Yeah, certainly so. Well, it's time for us to step aside, because we want to kind of hear what's happened, as it's time for an interview.
Well, Marko Pejic for the side of Mercedes AMG, congratulations are in order. Your first pole position finish for you. How is this feeling for yourself and the entire Mercedes team?
Yeah, I'm lost for words. I think that result is obviously very good. So I think we can all, enjoy that one very much.
Now, what was the game plan for yourself and Baldwin heading into the finals with Sebastian Job ahead of the two of you on that starting grid? Was there any kind of game plan heading into it?
Yeah, I think we wanted obviously to attack for P1, but I couldn't believe it when I saw that he jumped the start. So from there on, it was all about managing the tires, not overheating, and making sure that we bring it home in 1 and 2.
And what about the approach when it comes to yourself and Baldwin in the top two? Who decides whether or not it's worth fighting for pole position or not? Is that up to you guys? Is it your team manager? How does that dynamic kind of work?
I think naturally the positions are from quali, so whoever's in front obviously gets the chance, and if we see that the other car is faster, then obviously we'll maybe try to swap around, but I think, yeah.
And how about heading into Spa next week? You feeling confident you can get another finals placement then?
Yeah, we hope to improve the last Spa performance. I think we found some pace, and we are looking forward to attack there.
How does the preparations ahead of that look, though? Is there any set practice schedule? Give me a little bit of insight into how the improvement looks on your end.
Obviously, we try to really use the days, because we don't have many for prep, because it's a triple header, so it's every day practicing day in, day out, and trying to get the most out of the car, and today we managed it, and hopefully we'll be able to do that in Spa as well.
Well, congratulations are in order once again. Have you got any final words for your team or the folks at home?
Well, obviously a huge thanks to the team. We've been pushing each other all along throughout the prep, always finding the next couple of hundreds, and I think that really made the difference today.
Amazing stuff. Well, thank you so much for joining me, and congratulations once again.
Thank you.
Well, without further ado, George, my heart broke a little bit. I gotta be honest with you. Sebastian Job, things were looking so good, so promising. It could have been a historical moment for him. Your first ever ESL 1 appearance, and heartbreaking stuff. But take me through the final standings of what we had.
Yeah, let's go through the results. Yeah, heartbreak for Sebastian Job after absolutely terrific pole position. I will say this, my prediction for pole was bang on, but still, nonetheless, no one predicted this. A Mercedes 1 and 2, Marko Pejic delivering, and you can just tell that he is thrilled. James Baldwin as well, taking a second place, perfectly following up his final third place last time out when we went racing. But Luke Bennett as well, taking third, with Johan Jovski as well in fourth. Kevin Siggy, not bad at all, managed to get himself into fifth. Thomas Tatler making it a P6 for Heroic. Yuri Kazdor, Maximilian Beneke with a strong drive as well from the back of the grid order after that disaster in qualifying, getting P8 at the end of it all. Jakub Brzezinski taking home some much deserved and well-earned points for Williams. And lastly, Sorensen with another great display, the sole Furia car in the mix. G2 Esports probably would have wanted better, given the fact that Eamon Murphy and Sebastian Job were on form leading up towards the final, but bad luck got in the way.
I'm going to do it, George. I'm going to put you on the spot once again, like I'm infamous for doing. Sebastian Job, do you think heading into Spa, he'll be able to do it?
I think so. Yeah, he's a tried and tested professional. He knows exactly what he's doing, and I tell you what, from his history and what he's delivered in other championships, and certainly coming into ESL R1, he has absolutely delivered in his very first outing. So credit to him. He's a credit to G2 Esports, and I don't think this is the last we've seen from Sebastian Job.
Well, credit to him indeed. I'm not sure whether or not I want to give any credit in way of your predictions, because I feel like this caster curse is very much a real thing. So without further ado, let's take a look at...
You did get all.
Okay, yeah, fine. On that note, let's go ahead and take a look at our match, the outcome. Were you able to get any of the other ones right, though?
No, I'm afraid not. We didn't get any waves from Tommy Usgaard, unfortunately. More like slamming his fist on the wheel type stuff. I'm not sure whether that counts. Yuri Toman, unfortunately, suffering as well. Joshua Rogers, heartbreak, as we said, for Porsche Coanda. It was not a great day for them. And Moritz Lerner had a tough day at the office as well. So Sebastian Job was the only one to deliver for me today.
Well, what a way in which to do it as well. My heart was racing. Honestly, I started freaking out as soon as that happened. But let's take a look at our standings, our results thus far, and talk to me a little bit more about this drop score ruling. What exactly does that mean for some of our drivers?
Well, the drop score ruling, just to give you guys some insight, is basically where the worst result of a driver is removed, obviously heading up here towards round 6. So every round we've done leading up to this one at round 6, the worst result from each driver is going to be removed. Therefore, the points are removed for that specific round where they finished in the classification as well. So it just adds a bit of extra incentive, a bit of spice into the championship as well. And I think we'll deliver a clinic when we head to our first spring major in Munich as well at the summit.
Now the question is, was this the most hectic round that you have seen, or was it a little bit more hectic over in Katowice?
Well, I don't think it could have got more hectic than the... Well, I didn't think it could get more hectic, could I say, you know, than the first semi-final we've had. But I definitely think that second semi-final was very hectic. We had some dramatic moments as well. A couple of false starts which have creeped in just for this round, which is quite intriguing. Obviously, seeing the likes of Sebastian Job, a professional, you know, that is, you know, been in many competitions, many championships, and yet even he can have a false start as well, which is kind of bizarre, you know, certainly given the amount of experience he has. But then that just goes to show, you may be a professional, you come onto Rennsport, you come into ESL R1, different kind of pressure, different kind of test. It's a big question mark as to whether you can deliver on a new platform.
Now, I started kind of theorizing, was it because of nerves? Was it because, obviously, you had mentioned a little bit earlier on the difficulty of jumping between sim racing to sim racing? Do you think that might have an element of factor to play into this as well? What do you think it was?
Yeah, it's different strokes for different folks. At the end of the day, it's obviously you know, different sims have different you know, perks and different ways of working. Naturally, you know, with this being Sebastian Job's first time, it could be just a case of adjustment. But nevertheless, I'm sure he'll be back at Spa.
Well, I think it's about time we dive into our standings for our driver championship. Tentative results, of course. Disclaimer, this might change if any kind of post-race penalties are handed out as well. How do you think things are shaping up?
Well, great result for Luke Bennett, really, and today has effectively given him this championship lead. Yuri Toman, of course, bear in mind, folks, as we have so rightly said, these are provisional for the time being. Joshua Rogers, though, up in the top end, would have wanted more. Unfortunately, not going away with the full amount he probably would have wanted, given the instance they had earlier on. Chinchik obviously not featuring in the semis or the final on this occasion. Neither is Dáire McCormack. Yuyovsky, of course, gaining too. Kevin Siggy proving to be a consistent performer, once again reaching a final. Beneka as well is going to be looking for more as well, no doubt. James Baldwin, after that second place in the final today, what could that do to his championship going forward? And not to mention Moritz Lerner will be looking to bounce back. Kevin Ellis Jr. is still there and fighting in the top 12. And don't count out Nikodem Wisniewski. Obviously, I expect him to be a force at Spa as well.
And how about on the team championship side of things as well?
Well, Team Redline currently holding on to the lead advantage, but just look at that gap. 3 points is all that separates them and RHG. RHG are coming off the back of two, probably of their most difficult rounds to date. Obviously losing Chinchik. They lost Toman last week. Toman again losing out massively with only Yuyovsky going through to the final. They'll be looking for a big resurgence when we head to Spa. Williams will obviously be looking for the same as well, having obviously the likes of Brzezinski and McCormack in the points now week on week. This could prove to be beneficial to them as we move through to Spa. No doubt Max will have the same ideas. Mercedes, though, what could they bring to the table next week after this incredible performance here tonight?
Honestly, I feel like today's broadcast and all of our races has just been heartbreak central for me. As you did mention, Yuri Toman, man, it's got to be a feels bad moment most definitely, but you know what? It's not all doom and gloom. We do have some good news over here as well. I'm pleased to announce that our giveaway winner for the fun caption competition we had over on our Twitter page. If you want to get involved with some more competitions, make sure you're typing an !social in the chat as well. But drumroll please, is JustusUs_Marbs. The kind of competition we had was to see who could give us the funniest caption so far. So what do we think of this? Since when is Marcel so beautifully shaven? Maybe for the aerodynamics?
Well, I don't think they quite worked for him on this occasion. Obviously, didn't quite make it that far. But hey, you know, at the end of the day, credit to the person who developed this. And this is a credit as well to how well RHG have done so far in this championship. But no doubt they'll be looking for more at Spa.
Well, George, I want you to give me a little bit of a summary as to what we've witnessed so far today. I know there's a lot to cover, but any final moments or anything that had your heart really racing?
I'm going to say incredible from Mercedes to turn the tide, and yet again we're seeing a different winner of our final as well. Obviously only one driver still to do the double, and that's Dáire McCormack, and he'll be back no less, I would imagine, at Spa as well. Tragedy for Porsche Coanda. They were probably my downhearted team of the day. In terms of best team of the day, has to be Mercedes. Team Redline there and thereabouts, maybe a recovery from Mouse as well, and I think it all definitely goes to show that we have got an incredible few weeks ahead of us, and I think the next few rounds leading up to the summit are going to be sensational.
They're going to be absolutely crucial, and I'm so excited to see how it's all going to end up panning out as well. Once again, George, it's been a pleasure to work alongside you here today. I just want to give a quick shout out to yourself, to Lewis, all of the folks at home, and of course our fabulous partners over at VRS. If you want to check out some of their products for yourselves, make sure you're typing in !VRS in the chat as well to check out some of those sweet, sweet wheels. Well, without further ado, folks, I'm going to bid you all good night. Thank you for joining us.